This boy, Izuki, was stuck at level 0. On the day of the awakening, everyone received extraordinary abilities, but when it was his turn, the other students burst out laughing. The crystal shone, but nothing happened. In reality, Izuki had awakened a terrifying ability despite being stuck at level 0. He could analyze his enemy's powers and increase his stats infinitely. And just like that, Izuki became the Academy's genius, making all the nobles kneel before him. Suddenly, cracks called the Abyss began to appear all over the planet's sky. Soon after, an energy barrier formed, trapping everyone inside the city. Monsters known as demonic beasts emerged from the gates led by the destructive demonic beast Linga. With their arrival, they began a horrific massacre. They showed no mercy to all of humanity. A desperate father threw himself in front of a monster to save his son, screaming for him to run. The scene was total chaos, with civilians fleeing, trying to escape the creatures in the streets. One of the monsters was covered in blue flames. It let out a horrifying roar amidst the destruction. The creature then prepared an energy attack aimed at a defenseless girl in the middle of the road. But at the last second, someone saved a young Izuki, begging him to get away. The scream calling his name echoed in his mind, bringing back the pain of that day. Back in the present, a friend nudged him, asking why he was so distracted. She looked at him suspiciously, wanting to know if he was really okay. But then she noticed a tear on his face and asked why he was crying. Just then, two boys walked up and started making fun of the way he was dressed. It is explained that after these attacks, people with powers known as the Awakened began to appear. His classmate explained that the man over there was Izumi Hento, a famous general of the continent. Izuki was lost in thought as his friend said that Izumi was the first awakened in history. Moreover, he was known as the Light of Hope for being the strongest. A recent study showed that ordinary people could awaken by touching a type of stone slab. The man on stage then announced that they were there to give everyone that chance. Suddenly, a giant stone slab rose from the ground, glowing with powerful energy. All the students got excited, screaming and celebrating the chance to gain powers. Izuki's friend turned to him incredibly excited, saying the moment had arrived. He then ran to get in line while their female friend told Izuki to wait his turn. But inside, a dark aura enveloped him, revealing a fearsome determination. With a sinister smile, he thought that the day he had been waiting for had finally come. The ceremony began, but the first student to touch the stone failed to awaken. The other students grew worried because even the school's best athlete couldn't do it. The guard just impatiently told the next person in line to step up. The crowd started to worry, thinking that no one from their school would awaken. The guard then called the next person in line a bully named Oishi Hikaru. The students worried it would be a nightmare if that guy got powers. But suddenly the stone slab lit up and blue lightning surrounded the bully's body. A status screen appeared revealing he was a very powerful lightning elementalist. A woman in armor reported to her superior that they had finally found a promising awakened one. With an arrogant smile, the newly awakened boasted about being the first one here. But unexpectedly, our protagonist walked past and bumped into him without a second glance. The bully became enraged, yelling and asking if Izuki wanted to die for touching him. The crowd whispered that he was done for messing with the wrong person. From above, the observers sensed an incredibly intense emotion coming from our hero. He touched the stone slab, thinking that his determination came from the hatred he felt for the monsters. At that moment, the masked man's eyes widened, sensing a power that shouldn't exist. A giant and powerful spiritual image appeared behind our protagonist. The stone reacted with its full power, releasing a wave of energy that shook the entire structure. This energy then erupted upwards, creating a giant lotus flower above the school. Everyone was astonished by the energy flower, which was hundreds of times larger than the other one. His friends cheered, celebrating and shouting that he had finally awakened his powers. From above, the observers were stunned, as this was the sign of a destroyer. The bully wore a look of pure hatred, unable to believe he had been surpassed like that. The scene shifts to Izuki. He finds himself inside the flower, wondering if he has awakened. Suddenly, a status screen appears showing his class is Destroyer and his talent is Nirvana. But he panics when he sees that all his stats are completely at 0. Just then, his special ability activated, increasing all his stats by 200 points. With a smile, he realized that he could now become stronger and destroy the demonic beasts. Outside, the light became so brilliant it blinded everyone who was looking. And in the middle of all that light, the silhouette of our protagonist began to appear. Oishi couldn't believe what he was seeing, screaming that it was impossible. The armored woman was shocked by his stats, saying he was a monster rookie. It was revealed that he had become the strongest with all his stats at 200. The crowd went wild, celebrating that their school now had a legendary Awakened. Enraged, Oishi yelled that the protagonist had stolen the applause meant for him. In a fit of rage, he unleashed his energy, preparing to attack the classmates who provoked him. He then decided to use his new skill, Silver Discharge, to show off, but the protagonist's system detected the attack and immediately began analyzing the skill. As the analysis proceeded, Izuki stared him down with a serious and completely calm gaze. The bully then unleashed a powerful lightning whip, shattering the ground on impact. Suddenly, Izuki vanished in the blink of an eye, leaving everyone confused as to where he had gone. Then he appeared right behind the bully, who froze in fear upon sensing his presence. In a dark voice, he warned that if he were a monster, he would have been dead already. The bully fell to the ground, trembling, while the others laughed at his fear. The skill analysis was almost complete, and a new aura surrounded Izuki's body. With the analysis at 100%, he finally acquired the Thunder Wave skill. The light flared again, and one of his classmates even put on sunglasses to deal with it. Izuki realized he was being pulled into this space. Every time he finished analyzing a skill, a screen displayed the details of the new skill. He could absorb attacks and increase his agility. Back in reality, a wave of blue lightning surrounded our protagonist's body. The angry bully couldn't understand how he could have learned such a skill. Quickly, to everyone's surprise, his stats rose once again, showing his growing power. But suddenly the sky darkened, and a heavy rain began to fall out of nowhere. Next, a giant dark monolith appeared in the sky, falling towards the school. The woman ordered everyone to evacuate. Realizing they were the target of the attack, she said with a fearful face that fighting wasn't their team's specialty. But the masked man pointed at the boy, saying he had more courage than they did. As everyone fled, Izuki stood still, and the woman yelled, asking why he wasn't running. The monolith then landed with a violent impact, unleashing a sinister energy. Izuki warned his friends that a monster was coming, but he would destroy all of them. Desperate, they begged him to run. Since he had just awakened and was no match for it, he just turned to his friend and, with a serious look, asked her to trust him. She agreed, but told him not to blame her if he died in this battle. With a sinister smile, he thought that his first enemy as an awakened one had finally arrived. He felt lucky that it was the same type of monster that killed his parents. A skeleton soldier emerged from the portal, and the system displayed its combat stats. With a determined look, he decided to test the skill he had just learned. The protagonist then charged at the monster with all his might, unleashing all his energy. He launched a thunder wave and yelled that he wouldn't let anyone die again. The attack hit the skeleton soldier head-on with devastating force. The impact sent the creature flying, and it exploded into the school building. The onlookers were all astonished, saying he was too strong for a newly awakened rookie. But the masked man, explained that this kid was on a completely different level of power. Suddenly, the skeleton stood up and used a blue fire skill called Bonfire. Seeing the danger, his friends screamed his name, completely horrified by the sight, while the bully wore a malicious smile, hoping he would fail miserably. Izuki's system began to analyze the new skill. The process sped up as he was hit by the attack. The woman in armor was worried because not even a level 10 awakened one could withstand this blow. His body began to burn, and he finally understood the pain his mother had felt. A horrific memory surfaced, showing his mother being incinerated by the same blue flames. From a distance, the general observed everything, wondering if Izuki had used his full power yet. Even while on fire, he yelled that as soon as the analysis was done, the monster was finished. One of his classmates was in despair, but then got excited when she saw the blue lotus. It appeared again. The analysis completed, and the system announced he had acquired the Black Ice Wall skill. This new ability boosted all his stats, and completely healed his wounds. He thought that with his enhanced attack power, he could now pierce the monster's defenses. Back in reality, the blue lotus blossomed, illuminating the entire battlefield. From within it, our protagonist re-emerged without a single scratch, fully recovered. His friends cheered in relief to see him alive. The observers were shocked, unable to understand how he could possess both healing and lightning powers. He looked at his perfect hands, curious about the limits of his own regenerative abilities. Just then, the skeleton soldier roared in anger and attacked with its blue flames again, but the protagonist activated his new skill, creating a black ice shield on his arm. Unafraid, he stood his ground as the hellfire rushed towards him. The ice wall completely neutralized the attack, creating an impressive clash of powers. The explosion of energy was so strong it knocked the monster backward. Seizing the opportunity, he attacked with a lightning whip, knocking the monster to the ground. But the creature got back up, now holding a giant sword made of ice and lightning. In one swift movement, Izuki appeared behind the monster and sliced it in half with a single blow. The students were all speechless, saying he moved so fast it looked like teleportation. Even the observers were shocked by his immense power, wondering if he was really a rookie. It was explained that he could create weapons in any shape, making him perfect for both offense and defense. The battle was over, and his friends finally ran towards him, shouting his name. His friend hugged him, incredibly relieved, but Izuki just asked where C was. He explained that she was just here a second ago, looking like she was about to cry. Izuki scanned the crowd but couldn't find her, thinking that maybe she was angry with him. Impressed, the woman remarked that he had defeated a monster that even a level 10 awakened one would struggle with. His friend tried to reassure him, saying she probably went to the nurse's office because she was worried about him. Suddenly, a voice called out to him, asking if he was Izuki Tenma. This surprised his friend. The masked man approached the boy, staring at him with an overwhelming aura. The other students started to whisper, wondering if Izumi was going to take him on as a disciple. Your friend then said he'd go get a car for you and waved goodbye. Afterwards, the masked man faced you and said you are a very special boy. Izuki turned to him confused and asked what he meant. Izumi then revealed that the young man's heart was completely filled with anger and hatred. He said he wanted to know the real reason behind such great resentment. The protagonist explained that 15 years ago his parents died to protect him. We see a flashback of him as a child. Seeing a monster's attack heading straight for him, he thought he was about to die, but an awakened one saved him right in front of his mother. But he then had to witness his mother being killed. Saying goodbye as she was burned alive, the boy panicked, screaming desperately as he watched the horrific scene unfold. He felt guilty for their deaths, but something inside him screamed that this was wrong. The source of all that evil was the demon leading the attack, the one responsible for everything. And at that moment, consumed by rage, the young Izuki made a promise to himself. With a tear rolling down his cheek, he swore he would slaughter every last one of those monsters. Izumi then asked him how he could still cry with a heart so full of hatred. Izuki explained that his right eye cries on its own, which helps him never forget his hatred. Hearing this, Izumi invited him to become his disciple and join the Savior's Alliance. He explained that it is an organization created to strategically fight monsters. Its members, called Saviors, receive training, powerful weapons, and a handsome salary. But Izumi warned that these benefits aren't free, as they must risk their lives. The protagonist said he doesn't care about money because the most important thing to him is being able to fight on the front lines, declaring that he also wants to become a savior. Izumi then revealed there's an annual tournament where only the top 100 are eligible. He said a score of 6 might not seem like a great standard, but then revealed that the record is 115,000 points set by Kazunari Sasumi a year ago. Izuki recognized the name. He realized it was the strongest awakened one his friends had mentioned. The man warned him not to compare himself, but said that his talent could be on par with Kazunari's. With unshakable determination, Izuki declared he would surpass the great Kazunari Sasumi. The general was surprised by the boy's audacity, but seeing the potential in his confidence, he concluded by saying that someone like Izuki would be a new dawn for humanity, his eyes filled with hope. Izumi said that the sunrise he had been waiting for had finally arrived. The scene changes and they arrive at a futuristic building. Izuki asked what it was. Izumi explained that the monuments are spatial gates, and if they aren't destroyed, more monsters will appear. The general said this building isolates the indestructible monuments and is used as a training ground. Izuki understood it was a training area, and Izumi warned that they are very dangerous stages. He then warned that this particular stage is the most dangerous of all. It's known as the Rookie's Grave. He then revealed that Kazunari, as a rookie, completed this stage in 3 minutes and 14 seconds. With that, the general challenged him. He said that if he wants to break the record, he needs to do it in 3 minutes. Izumi then promised that if he completed the stage in that time, he would take him on as his disciple. As they entered, everyone was shocked to see the famous Izumi with a rookie. Our protagonist immediately realized this man was more famous than he had ever imagined. He saw on a panel that the monsters inside were all level 10, much stronger than the skeletons. The awakened ones whispered that he wouldn't go in, thinking he was just there to show off. Unfazed, he walked to the counter and spoke to the receptionist. He said that he wanted to enter the stage. The woman asked how many people would be going, but he announced that he would challenge the place alone. Everyone in the lobby fell silent, amazed by the boy's absurd confidence. Angry, the receptionist yelled at him. She told him to stop joking around because this was no place for games. The crowd started laughing, saying there's always someone who gets the wrong idea and gets chewed out. He then explained that she had misunderstood. His only concern was challenging the stage. Exasperated, the woman told him to stop acting so cocky and gave him her phone number just to get him to leave. With a cold stare, he repeated that he didn't care about her number and just wanted her to let him in. Frightened, the woman gave him the device but warned that she wouldn't be responsible if he died. The crowd mocked him, saying that a level 0 rookie challenging a level 10 stage was suicide. But others commented that even with a special gift, his level was still too low for this. He walked to the door, ready to scan his bracelet and begin the challenge. With that, his entry was approved, and the massive door slowly creaked open. Once inside, he braced himself and said that a promise must be kept. 3 minutes. The clock started running, marking the official start of his great challenge. With a powerful aura, he ran at full speed, not wasting a single second. He spotted the monument, realizing how vast and challenging this artificial space was. Just then, he sensed the presence of enemies and announced that they were coming. A tree spirit attacked him, but Isuki greeted it with an ice attack. He then created an axe and split the creature in two with a single slash, a mocking smile on his face. He asked how it felt to see its friend get split in two. More monsters appeared, roaring in anger and surrounding our protagonist. Outside, the woman asked Izumi why he would send the boy to such a difficult stage. Izumi explained that to surpass Sasumi, one must transcend the limits of humanity. Hearing this, the woman recalled seeing Sasumi easily kill a level 97 monster. She described his eyes as cold and lonely, as if they weren't human. She concluded by saying his eyes were like those of a god, a divine presence. Izumi agreed that the boy has potential but is still a diamond in the rough. He added that if Sasumi is a god, then Isuki is a devil, his complete opposite. Back in the stage, our hero defeated them all, noticing that his skills didn't even activate on them. But suddenly a giant shadow appeared behind him, revealing the area's true boss. Without a moment's hesitation, the protagonist charged forward and attacked the creature with an ice strike. The monster fell to the ground, defeated, and he wondered if that was all there was to the stage. But he felt it was all too easy for a place known as the Rookie Graveyard. Something wasn't right. Then his system detected the monster's regeneration skill and immediately began to analyze it. Suddenly he heard a strange noise. He realized the battle wasn't over yet. The creature fully regenerated, becoming an even larger and more powerful monster. The main character was shocked that the monster recovered even after having half its head chopped off. He understood it wouldn't be easy as the monster's stats had increased absurdly. To defend himself, he activated his black ice wall and blocked the creature's attack. To stop it from regenerating, he needed to deal massive damage, so he prepared a final attack. Using 2 blades, he slashed the monster into 10 pieces. With a swift attack, his final blow cut the monster in half with surgical precision. The monster opened its eyes, glaring at him angrily before completely disintegrating. With a confident smile, he declared he'd sliced it so thin that it couldn't regenerate anymore. Then, he raised his sword and slashed the creature once more, this time vertically. The monster exploded into pieces, finally defeated by our hero. As the battle ended, he felt his mana draining from constantly using the wall, but to his surprise, the monster regenerated again, this time in the form of tentacles. He found the attacks impressive, as the monster was still not dead after all that. But he noticed that each regeneration sped up his skill analysis. He deactivated the wall to save mana and decided to keep his distance. He waited until the analysis was complete, but time was running out and he knew he needed to be faster to win. He then activated his thunder and ice skills, intending to attack and defend at the same time. He understood that if he couldn't activate the skill in time, he would die from mana exhaustion. But he faced the risk, thinking that if he died, it was because his strength had reached its limit. With his eyes glowing red, he poured all his energy into one desperate attack. Finally, his attack struck the creature directly, but it defended itself, showing its resilience. Despite his best efforts, he couldn't break through. He couldn't penetrate its defense and lamented his failure. His body was pierced by the tentacles, and he realized his mana had finally run out. But at the last second, the analysis finished, and he discovered the skill required no mana. A blue lotus emerged from his body, and he acquired the Lotus Burst ability. The new skill dealt explosive area of effect damage. The damage was proportional to the amount of mana the user had consumed. With that, all his stats increased by 20 points, and his wounds were healed. The creature faced him. But he simply activated his new powerful ability. The protagonist snapped his fingers, releasing destructive energy across the entire arena, a massive explosion of fire and power. It completely incinerated the monster. The stage's boss was utterly consumed with no chance to regenerate. With a satisfied look, he praised the power of the skill he had just learned. He realized his skill had restored his mana even after it had hit 0. Amidst the rubble, a glowing green stone appeared, making him curious. What was it? Outside, the receptionist was panicking because time was almost up and he still hadn't come out. The general's assistant doubted he could do it in 3 minutes. She considered the task impossible, but suddenly the screen turned green, announcing that a new record had been set. The woman was shocked, wondering if he had really completed the challenge. The panel then confirmed the achievement, showing he had finished in 2 minutes and 56 seconds. The door opened to reveal our hero lying on the floor, completely exhausted from the battle. Everyone celebrated, shocked that he had survived and broken the great Sasumi's time record. Izuki stood up and asked Izumi if he would finally fulfill his promise. With a triumphant smile and a bruised face, he officially called him Sensei. Izumi praised him, and the assistant realized it had been a long time since she'd seen her father so happy. The crowd understood that he had only succeeded because he was Izumi's student, but they were skeptical about his future. Just then, the receptionist approached, apologized, and gave him a gift. He accepted it, saying her concern only proved she was a good person. With a simple thank you, he left her completely embarrassed and blushing. The assistant then called out to him. She warned that they were about to leave and he would be left behind. The assistant scolded him, telling him not to get arrogant just because he was Chako Izumi's student. Izumi then said that with his current abilities, he could go to a higher level stage. The general explained that level wasn't the only factor determining a monster's strength. He revealed that the most important thing was the species. Species without intelligence are easy to deal with, but there are intelligent ones that are incomparable to ordinary beasts and are far more dangerous. The assistant added that only humans possess classes that determine their strength. She warned him that a high-level stage has these kinds of monsters, and that was his next destination. With a brutal expression, he wondered if intelligent monsters feel pain when they're attacked. The woman was frightened by his intimidating aura, not understanding what was going through his mind. Elsewhere, a group of people commented on a man. He controlled the area and killed anyone who entered. One of the guys told the other to shut up. He warned that if that man heard him, he'd wipe him out too. Then we see Raji Kinoshita, the son of the boss who runs the entire North Sector 4. One of his subordinates asked when he would be leaving, but he said he was the one who decided. With a smug smile, he said that waiting in line was something only commoners do. Izuki opened a small, exquisite box, revealing a small, brilliantly glowing stone. The scene changes, showing they were talking in a garden, and the boy recalled that moment. Izumi Hento then asks if he has ever seen a karma stone like that before. The main character recalls getting a similar one that dropped after he defeated a monster. In a flashback, he held a much larger crystal. And noticing its green color, the blue-haired woman is shocked because a stone like that shouldn't be there. She then offers to explain, saying that it's basically an experience stone. It's explained that karma is released from monsters and absorbed to level up. In short, a karma stone stores this energy to be used as an item. But the young woman is still confused about these stones, since they can't appear naturally. Hearing this, Izumi Hento says it probably happened due to Izuki's gift. The boy and the woman look at him, not understanding what his gift has to do with it. The man in the helmet explains that Izuki didn't absorb the karma, but that energy didn't just simply disappear. He says that the karma from the monster at the school was absorbed by all the other awakened, but because Izuki was in a sealed place, the energy solidified and became the stone. The young woman then asks how he raises his stats, without leveling up, which makes Izuki ponder. But Izumi Hento scolds her, warning that this is a secret not to be shared. He says Izuki can sell or keep the stone and Aja will take care of him. Before leaving, the man sets 4 rules, including keeping his gift a secret. With a smirk, Izuki agrees and calls him master, accepting the alliance. The scene changes to a training ground where trainees are being blocked by some thugs. One of them complains, saying that this place was reserved by the Kinoshita family for today. He threatens to call the association, but a giant shadow with glowing red eyes appears behind him. Suddenly, the blonde trainee attacks with a skill, flying towards this newcomer, a masked man. Kazunari easily blocks the attack with just one hand. In a flash, he counters with a powerful blow, hitting the trainee. The blonde guy is shocked, yelling that his B-rank skill had absolutely no effect. Kazunari then says it didn't even itch. His eyes glow with anger. The boy is terrified, thinking this guy can only be a real monster. With pure rage, Kazunari grabs him by the collar, ready to teach him a lesson. Without hesitation, he unleashes a devastating blow, knocking the blonde trainee completely unconscious. The others are startled when they realize he is UGA, one of the pillars of Raji. He then lifts the boy up and warns that he'll do the same to anyone who disobeys. 2 trainees are left on the ground, and UGA warns that no one should dare help them. Seeing this, his minions start laughing, telling him not to be too rough. Disgusted, UGA throws the boy to the ground, showing he didn't come here to play games. But just then, Izuki and his companion arrive to help the injured trainee. The crowd is shocked, not understanding why a level 0 is getting involved in this. UGA then glares at him, telling the rookie to get lost, if he doesn't want the same fate. Izuki realizes that to get inside, he'll first have to defeat that brute. But he says that he doesn't need to do that, because his master taught him to fight for what's right. Calmly, he hands the injured trainee to someone else and asks them to take care of him. A dark aura explodes around Izuki, and his status reveals his special class. UGA feels the pressure, not understanding how a level 0 could do that to him. He becomes furious. He refuses to be intimidated by someone much weaker than him. UGA glares at the rookie with hatred, unable to believe his audacity for daring to challenge him. In the reflection of his eyes, he sees Izuki rushing towards him, ready to strike. In a surprise move, the boy throws a punch straight at the brute's face. The crowd is shocked by his speed, wondering if he's really a level 0. Izuki's fist hits hard metal as UGA has activated his defense. He takes a step back, revealing the guy blocked the blow with his metallization skill. With metal hands, UGA catches his fist and then praises the boy's speed, but he warns him that he lacks power and throws Izuki away with a blow that cracks the ground. Thrown back, our hero thinks that he'll need to use his lightning ability to win. At that moment, his copy skill activates, starting to analyze the enemy's technique. Izuki readies himself on the ground, knowing that now he has to fight Mao with everything he's got. He understands the defense is very tough, so he decides to focus on the non-metal parts of his body. The boy plants his feet firmly on the ground, launching into another super-fast attack. UGA then starts to mock him, calling the boy weak with no power or speed. But Izuki smiles, because now the enemy has let his guard down. He's going to use his acceleration ability. Covered in lightning, Izuki dashes forward, giving the enemy no chance to defend. He starts unleashing a barrage of blows, and his skill analysis rate increases. The bewildered crowd starts to think this rookie might actually win. UGA begins to panic at the boy's speed, not even giving him a chance to breathe. He tries to scream for help, telling his minions not to just stand there and watch the fight. With no other choice, the brute grits his teeth, deciding to play his final card. With an angry roar, he rips his shirt open, unleashing his full power. The guy then metallizes his entire body, thanking Izuki for forcing him to evolve. He explains that his defense now exceeds 500, turning him into a living fortress. With a wicked smile, he promises to grant a quick death. As a reward for the help, the horrified crowd knows that no one at that level can break through such a defense. But Izuki analyzes the situation, deducing that the transformation consumes a lot of mana. UGA calls it nonsense, but inwardly he's startled by the boy's intuition. With the analysis at 100%, Izuki declares he's ending it now. His companion recognizes the aura, saying the Blue Lotus is about to get stronger. The crowd is amazed by the giant lotus. It's unclear how he could defeat UGA, but the system showed the analysis was complete, and he had acquired the piercing orb skill. Izuki noticed that this ability ignores defense, and since the target was standing still, the timing was perfect. With his eyes glowing, he vowed to shatter that absolute defense to pieces upon receiving the skill. All of his stats increased by 10 points, making him stronger amidst that blue aura. The main character creates an orb of dark energy in his palm, then aims the orb and challenges his enemy to try and dodge the attack. The crowd wonders if a level 10 could possibly pierce that defense, but they had faith in him. The small dark orb glowed intensely, concentrating an unimaginable power within it. Slowly, the attack drifted towards UGA, who was standing still awaiting the impact. Seeing this, the audience was disappointed, thinking it was just a small, weak orb. UGA scoffed, thinking how naive it was to try and defeat him with something like that. He remained motionless and smug as the orb drew closer. The brute then warned that if this was his trump card, he would suffer a miserable death. But the moment the orb touched him, it pierced through his metallic skin with ease. A spray of blood erupted from his body, and he screamed in pain. As the guy lay on the ground, Izuki explained that he had aimed for his arm since he didn't dodge. He then turned to the henchmen, telling them to stop staring and take him to the hospital. With a cold gaze, the main character simply told all of them to get lost. Terrified, the men grabbed their boss and carried him away, without looking back. The crowd erupted in celebration, cheering for the rookie's impressive victory. Seeing his strength, 2 people approached and invited Izuki to form a team with them. The two tried to persuade him, saying the monsters on this stage are very difficult to defeat, but Izuki found this perfect as it could increase the speed of his new orb. They then pressured the boy, demanding he finally decide what he was going to do. With a serious expression, he simply announced that he would enter the dungeon. Alone. Everyone around was shocked, thinking the victory had made him arrogant. Seeing his refusal, the two gave up and said they would find another team to play with. His teammate asked about the mana cost, but he reassured her that he'd be fine. Flustered, she said she wasn't worried. She just didn't want to be blamed before he left. She warned that the monsters move in packs and to be careful. He then placed his hand on the console and his entry into the stage was finally approved. Inside, he realized there were more enemies than he expected. The rock monsters looked much stronger with significantly higher levels and stats after analyzing one of the monsters. He confirmed its defense was quite high. With this, he decided to test the passive condition of his piercing orb on the enemy. The orb activated, releasing a dark purple energy ready to strike. He fired the dark orb. It flew straight towards the rock monster. The attack pierced through the creature with ease, taking it down in just one hit. With that, the orb's speed doubled just as our protagonist had predicted, but right after, several other rock monsters appeared completely surrounding him. He figured they were perfect targets, since they were slow and ideal for upgrading his skill. Using the doubled speed, he took down two more and his orb's power increased again. He climbed onto a pile of rubble, realizing his mana was almost depleted. Seeing more enemies approaching, he grew worried because the boss monster still hadn't appeared. With no time to waste, he decided he needed to take down two monsters with a single shot. Isuki then threw the orb to the ground, creating a decoy to lure the two enemies. Just as he jumped away, he shouted for them to fall into his trap. With a fierce expression, he yelled that he was about to unleash his final blow. The prepared orb shot up, piercing through both monsters and increasing its speed once again. Exhausted, he collapsed to the ground, wishing he had a skill to recover energy. Looking at his screen, he saw the orb was now fast enough to hit any target. The system screen showed his orb had reached its maximum flight speed. But suddenly, a giant rock fist descended from the sky, catching Izuki by surprise. The fist smashed into the ground with extraordinary force, causing a small rock explosion. From the shadows, the stage's boss finally appeared, a level 15 rock golem. Seeing the monster was too large, he activated his lightning wave to increase his agility. He ran along the monster's body, doubting that his orb could take down something so huge. He then considered aiming for the head, as it might be the giant's only weak point. Seeing an opening in the monster's defense, he fired his orb with all his might. But the orb was too small and didn't do enough damage to the colossal monster. Taking advantage of him being in midair, the golem retaliated with a powerful swat to crush him. Isuki panicked, knowing he couldn't dodge the attack while airborne. With no other choice, he activated his black ice wall to try and block the fatal blow. The impact was so strong that it completely shattered his defense, breaking it into pieces. He was thrown into the rocks, admitting that this brute was stronger than it looked. But his copy skill detected the monster's ability and began to analyze it. Despite being injured, Isuki smirked, realizing the monster had used a skill to become gigantic. The scene changes to a mansion, where a servant receives a call and is shocked by the news. With a cold gaze, Raji Kinoshita told him not to make a fuss in front of him. The man apologized, and his master asked what the commotion was about. He then explained that someone had defeated the royal fangs and invaded the training area. Angrily, Raji slammed his hand on the table, wondering if it was an awakened person over level 30. But his servant reported that the strongest ones were all busy, and only rookies were there. He found it impossible that a level 10 person could win, but Raji ordered him to investigate further. Raji said that wasn't necessary, as the dungeon takes a while, giving them time to get there. With a deathly glare, he screamed that they would go there right now, no more excuses. The man, horrified by the command, immediately agreed, breaking out in a cold sweat as he stood up in fear. Raji swore he would make them regret angering the Kenosha clan. Back in the match, the analysis was complete, and Izuki celebrated that he wouldn't have to run anymore. Just then, a glowing blue lotus symbol appeared on the giant golem's forehead. The system screen confirmed the analysis. The gigantification skill was successful. He realized his piercing orb had leveled up to level 2, gaining a new effect. Its passive speed effect was doubled. But the best part was, he could now adjust its size. Excited, he decided to try it out immediately, and the system also healed him completely. Along with that, all of his stats increased by 20 points. Making him stronger, he then used all his mana to create the largest piercing orb he could. The giant orb then fired a massive energy beam with extraordinary power. The attack pierced through the golem's body from top to bottom, completely destroying it. With his mana depleted, he let out a slight smile, thinking he might have overdone it a little. The system confirmed his victory, and his orb speed increased by another 200%. He calculated that in 2 more rounds, his attack would be as fast as a car. Holding the Karma Stone, he realized the passive effects were much more useful. Then, he remembered that Lotus Burst also increased his skill range. We learned that this skill's passive ability increases its range with every enemy defeated. He imagined that one day, he'd be able to hit targets miles away. Outside, a large screen announced his success, breaking the Stage 6 record 3 minutes early. The crowd was shocked that he had beaten the monster Kazunari's time, who was watching as he stepped out. Everyone found it strange. Because he was still level 0 and didn't have a single scratch on him, his teammate smiled, impressed that he had cleared Stage 6, and once again came out completely unscathed. She commented that he was really fast, and Izuki replied that the monster was just too weak. He then noticed a glowing butterfly on her hand and asked what it was. The girl revealed her class was a Shikigami user and that it was her creature. Izuki was amazed, saying it was the first time he'd ever seen one and that it was beautiful. He took the opportunity to ask about the classes, which surprised his teammate. The girl explained that classes are divided into 4 types, and he had already seen 3 of them. First is the Elemental class, the most common type with the highest base combat power. She recalled that one of his classmates used the lightning element. That brute from before Alga also belongs to this type. That's why he uses metal. Next, she introduced the second class Shikigami users who summon beasts. She introduced herself as Aja Izumi, a Shikigami user, along with her jade butterfly. With a smile, she asked if he had any questions about her explanation. He didn't, but Izuki then asked why. Her level was lower than her butterfly's. The question shocked her, unable to believe the boy's naivety. She then calmed down and explained that Shikigami also gain experience and level up. With a grim look in his eyes, Izuki realized he just needed to focus on defeating the master. Aja, frightened by the dark aura emanating from him, again broke the tension by asking about the other classes she hadn't mentioned. The girl became pensive, saying the third class is the most mysterious of all. Then she revealed that his class, the Order Breaker, is that very class. Aja explained that his class is a mystery because of its unique abilities, like his Lotus. We learned that others can control their body size, or even create countless clones. Normal skills are ranked from C to S, but Order Breakers possess Z-rank skills. She said that's why her father scolded her, because the secret of their skills is their greatest weapon. But she considered him an exception, since he used at least 3 elemental class skills. Izuki thought worriedly that if his master found out about this conversation, he'd be in huge trouble. He then asked about the final class, but she was secretive about it. With a smile, she said she would only tell him when he met a user in person. The boy agreed, and she took the chance to let him know that the student he had saved was okay. Then she asked about his plans, and he said he wanted to repeat the stage to farm more. But she informed him that the stage has a cooldown and would only reopen after 2 days. He then asked if there were any other stages with a large number of monsters for him. With a mischievous look, she said she knew the perfect place for him to go right now. She introduced him to the Locust Desert, a place with a ridiculously large number of monsters. She questioned him about not having any area of effect skills, but he accepted the challenge on the spot. The group was worried, but Izuki said he'd be fine even without any OE skills. They were shocked by the boy's courage, but decided to leave to avoid any trouble. A while later, Reggie arrived at the location, but found no one to interrogate. His subordinate reported that the target had already left, and Reggie was stunned by his speed. He couldn't believe his plan had failed, and was furious about being made a fool of. Determined to get revenge, he ordered his subordinate to call a tracker to hunt the boy down with deadly hatred. He swore to capture him alive to make him suffer the ultimate pain. Meanwhile, a wounded man hid in an alley, regretting taking the mission. He celebrated his narrow escape, saying he would have been dead if he hadn't been fast enough. Thinking he was safe, he relaxed, but a growl startled him. From the shadows, a giant wolf with glowing red eyes lunged at him, ready to devour him. The beast bit him mercilessly, leaving him severely injured with no chance to escape. A mysterious man appeared and told the wolf to take its time. Because he wanted some information, the confused man asked how they had found him in that alley. The man in the hat simply replied that his wolf's sense of smell is excellent. He introduced himself as Shocky the Wolf and said he could smell the scent of desperate death. The man begged for his life, pleading not to be killed like this, but Shaki refused, saying that Kinosita would be angry and his wolf was hungry. With a malicious expression, he ordered his wolf, saying it was time to eat. The creature lunged forward. Its giant fangs were ready to devour the victim. After the meal, a status window appeared, showing that he had finally leveled up. He then took out his phone and reported to someone that the job there was done. Shaki was surprised to hear Hugo was injured and said he was on his way. With a smile, he told his wolf that a new prey had appeared for them. Isuki arrived at a desolate place called the Locust Desert, wondering if this was the spot. He looked over the wheat fields. He wondered if there were really that many locusts here. His companion then explained that calamity monsters choose environments they like to invade. She said that there wasn't even a signal here, because the danger level of this place was too high. Isuki was confused by the low levels, but she explained that wasn't the real problem. It turned out the monsters here were very aggressive, and their numbers were ridiculously high. She warned him that if he let his guard down for even a moment, he would be completely surrounded and eventually eaten alive until only a skeleton remained. But Izuki broke into a smile, thinking it was great to have so many monsters to fight. With a confident look, he said he wasn't desperate enough to die yet, by being eaten by insects. Seeing his attitude, she watched him step into the portal, believing he would be just fine. She thought to herself that since he went in on his own, all responsibility was his. But suddenly she realized in a panic that she had forgotten to warn him that they never stop appearing. Worried, she decided she had to go in and tell our protagonist. But just as she tried to enter, two mysterious figures appeared and blocked her way. A mysterious man appeared with a sinister look, saying that he was looking for someone here. The scene changes and we see Izuki now in the desert. Finding the place quite desolate, he clapped his hands with a confident smile and shouted for the bugs to wake up because he was here to destroy them. He realized the monsters were weak, but perfect for using his skill Lotus Blast. His analysis showed they were just malignant locusts with ridiculously low levels like 1 and 2. Suddenly, a giant swarm of insects appeared in the sky, diving straight for him. But he thought this was great, creating a lotus flower of pure energy between his two hands. His plan was to wait for the insects to gather so he could crush them all at once. The moment the swarm engulfed him, he shouted, "Now's the time!" Unleashing all of his accumulated power with that, the Lotus Blast was activated, creating a wave of light that devastated everything around. Many notifications appeared, confirming that each defeated locust would increase his skill's range. He stood amidst the destruction, observing the results of his massive attack. It was explained that this skill has a passive effect that improves its range after each kill. Seeing the 110% bonus, he realized he had defeated 110 monsters at once. With a smile, he calculated that he could use this move 10 more times, planning for a 1000% increase. He thought that if this skill didn't have a cooldown, things would be much smoother, but then he felt something was strange, because the success notification hadn't appeared, and he was starting to get suspicious. Just then, a screen appeared announcing that a C-rank skill called Mother's Will had been activated. Isuki turned around in surprise, unable to believe there were still survivors after his attack. Suddenly, more giant locusts rose from the ground, surrounding him from all sides. One of them attacked him, and he realized he'd let his guard down, thinking there was no boss. The problem now was not knowing where the boss was. This complicated things. He then decided to defeat all the smaller ones to force the boss to appear. With that, he used Lotus Blast, again receiving many notifications about the increase in range. His bonus reached 220%, making the skill's range enormous. The system window showed the attack now had a 16-meter diameter. Even after defeating another 110 monsters, the boss still didn't appear. The scene shifts underground, revealing a nest with eggs from which more monsters were being born. Izuki saw the locusts rising from the ground again. While his boss analysis was progressing, he checked his energy and grew worried, because he could only use Lotus Blast 9 more times. Determined, Izuki prepared his flames. He said that he would annihilate them all no matter how many appeared. He then clenched his fist, shouting that he would wipe them all off the map. Instantly, with one explosion, he destroyed a few of them, and the notifications showed the increase in range, his skill. He then fired consecutive attacks, unleashing multiple explosions to clear the area quickly. The system showed his range bonus had reached 990%, but this effort took its toll, and he realized he only had enough energy for one more Lotus Blast. Another endless wave of monsters appeared, frustrating him with the situation. He thought that the boss wasn't appearing and considered retreating to try again later, but he quickly dismissed that idea. He thought that was something a loser would do. With a determined look in his eyes, he prepared to fight, declaring he would defeat all the monsters with this. He unleashed one final powerful lotus blast with all of his energy. Exhausted and on his knees, he helplessly believed that he had solved the problem. But he was shocked to see the locusts were still there, and their numbers hadn't even decreased. Suddenly a thought flashed through his mind as he realized all the monsters were level 1. The analysis finished, revealing the Locust Queen and her infinite reproduction ability. He understood that fighting was meaningless without killing the boss, as the monsters would simply multiply. Just then, the analysis process was almost complete, and an energy orb shattered, completing the process. With this, he acquired the energy detection skill, which helps find enemies and restore his energy. He smiled, realizing this was the perfect skill for this difficult situation. But he remembered Adha was waiting, so he decided it was best to end this quickly. The new skill restored everything, healing his wounds and boosting all of his power stats. Fully recovered, he activated his detection ability to finally locate the area's true boss. A wave of blue energy then spread across the field, searching for any signs of energy. An energy pulse travels a great distance, revealing the Locust Queen hidden underground. His eyes glow with power, and he announces with a smile that he's finally found it. He then prepares a dark energy sphere, aiming it straight at the Queen. The Queen tries to use her offspring as a shield, but he sees its tactic is futile. He shouts that it won't work, launching a lotus of energy that will reach it. The system confirms the attack range is 120 meters, not enough to hit the target. The attack hits its mark, piercing through the Queen and ending the threat instantly. Covered in lightning, with his armor activated, he rushes in to finish the Queen. With a confident smile, he confronts the enemy up close and declares, "Checkmate." In one swift move, he pierces the Queen's shell with a brutal, critical blow. With the leader dead, he watches the locust swarm fall into complete chaos. With his hands ablaze, he tells the others that he'll send them to be reunited with their mother. A system screen shows his skills now have a range of over 1200%. He's pleased with the result and plans to come back to increase this effect even more. As he steps out of the portal, he sees it took 17 minutes and worries about Adha waiting for him. He thinks she'll probably act cold despite being relieved he's back. But he finds her act cute and is about to tell her he's back and everything is fine, but suddenly his eyes glow with unprecedented rage. He sees Adha is injured and a mysterious man asks if he's the one that Raji is looking for. The villain explains that he tried to get information from her, but despite her injuries, she didn't say a word. Furious, Isuki tells him to let Adha go, threatening to teach him a lesson. But the man laughs, telling the level 0 rookie not to get cocky. In a flash, Isuki, covered in lightning, rushes forward, ready to wipe him out. The villain is shocked by his speed. He feels death approaching, but a giant demon dog appears out of nowhere. Using its head to block the attack, Isuki realizes the dog is a Shikigami, which means that guy is its user. The man analyzes his speed now, understanding why Uga lost. With a smirk, he says he has the dog and the hostage, tightening his grip on the girl's neck. Isuki is distracted and yells her name, creating the perfect opening for the monster's attack. The dog then opens its jaws, ready to tear off the protagonist's arm with one bite. The villain taunts that the best-case scenario is him only losing an arm. Suddenly, the man is shocked, unable to believe what's happening. Right before his eyes, with his other hand, Isuki shoves a sphere of energy straight into the demonic creature's mouth. The energy explodes from the inside, destroying the dog's head and killing it instantly. Isuki analyzes the enemy, knowing that without a Shikigami, the user is completely defenseless. The villain sneers, wondering if the rookie knows the creature can be revived. It's explained that the dog has a regeneration skill that shortens the wait time. The monster gets back up, and the man yells at him to become prey for his Shikigami once again. But Izuki activates his detection ability, and waves of energy spread across the battlefield. He reveals that he left his detection ability on, and that it was the right choice. With the analysis nearly complete, he avoids using Thanlian to not arouse suspicion. The villain is terrified because the boy has power, speed, and detection skills. Desperate, he threatens Adha's life, shouting for him to stop resisting. Isuki decides to complete the analysis without Thanlin, and the system confirms the skill acquisition. It's revealed that the new ability Shikigami Eater allows him to control enemy creatures. He realizes he can control this creature, but he doesn't get the recovery and stat bonuses. Even without the recovery effect, he feels ready since he's at full strength. He understands that the new ability can steal Shikigami from other users. With this new power, he prepares to turn the tables. Creating a sphere of light, Isuki rushes forward with all his might, shouting that he's taking the dog now. He then unleashes a blow on the creature. It begins to be enveloped by his energy. With a powerful strike, he throws the Shikigami far away towards its former master. The villain is furious with his dog, is shouting that the monster is completely useless. Out of options, he threatens again, saying he'll break Ada's neck if he reacts. But despite being badly injured, the girl tells him not to worry about her at all. Seeing the situation, Izuki raises his hands in surrender, telling the man not to touch her. The man cracks a victorious smile, saying she wouldn't have to suffer if he had just listened. Izuki then asks why they're after him, as he doesn't remember doing anything wrong. The villain then reveals that Raji Kinoshita is furious because he entered a dungeon without permission. Hearing Raji's name again, he decides to handle things himself, but the villain sneers, "Thou warning that the Shikigami will tear his legs to shreds without mercy." He then orders the creature to rip off both of the boy's legs, however, with an icy glare. Izuki tells the dog to prove it's worthy of serving him. The creature immediately turns and attacks its former master, who is horrified by the betrayal. With a swift move, Izuki sweeps Ada into his arms, saving her from imminent danger. The villain panics, screaming and asking why his own Shikigami is attacking him. Izuki then praises the dog. It now obeys him as its new master. With a look of absolute hatred, he swears to return all her pain 100 times over. The man becomes desperate, begging and saying he can lure Raji into a trap. Izuki seems to agree with a terrifying expression, saying, "It's a good offer," thinking he's tricked him. The villain laughs and shouts that he's got him trapped. He then throws some kind of attack crystal, yelling for our hero to just die. But Izuki replies coldly, saying that he alone is more than enough to kill Raji. With that, he orders his new dog to make the man suffer. The man begs for forgiveness, asking for another chance, and saying it was a slip of the tongue. But the creature moves forward slowly, ready to carry out its new master's command. In a panic, he tries to remind the dog that he is its master and has fed it for years, but it's no use. The creature opens its jaws to devour him. A little pity, no need to look at that scene. He realizes someone has been watching him all this time. Then he asks how much longer that person will hide, telling them to show themselves. The scene changes, revealing that there really is someone. On top of that structure, a mysterious hooded figure appears, saying he noticed Izuki had seen him. While still holding Aja in his arms, Izuki asks if he's a friend of the guy from before. The blonde boy panics, denying it, and desperately asks our hero to listen to him, but Izuki says he doesn't have time. He tells his new dog to follow after it finishes eating. The young man looks at the dog and thinks that maybe this man could be his savior. He then introduces himself as Iberia, compliments the fight, and recognizes Izuki as someone famous. He then offers a reward like mana stones or weapons in exchange for help, but Izuki simply ignores him, leaving Iberia confused about what his master taught him. A flashback shows a blacksmith explaining that a reward needs to be smart and useful. He says that the right thing to do is to give a blade to someone who wants revenge or medicine to someone who's injured. With this memory, Iberia gets a brilliant idea. Realizing what he needs to do, he runs over and warns that Aja will die because the nearest hospital is too far. With a smile, he shows a shiny healing item and says he's lucky to have one. He then yells that he can save her, causing Izuki to finally stop walking. Our protagonist turns around in surprise, asking if what he said is true. Iberia warns that he can't heal her completely right now, but he can save her life. He then uses a special type of bandage on Aja, explaining that it's not a normal item. When Izuki is confused, Iberia thinks it's normal since he must have just awakened. We are told that modern weapons cannot harm monsters, which is why these tools exist. This special equipment is divided into 4 levels from normal to the rarest. Normal equipment is like a regular weapon, but it can actually hurt monsters. Rare equipment slightly increases the user's stats, like agility and mana. Meanwhile, epic gear boosts stats and also has very powerful special effects. And finally, unique equipment, the ultimate goal of every artisan in the world. Iberia explains that this is why artisans are so respected by all awakened people. He boasts that his father is no ordinary person, because there are only 10 people like him. With great pride, he reveals that 3 of the 10 unique tools were made by him. The boy reveals that his father is known as the Artisan King of the 6 northern regions. But Iberia angrily realizes that Izuki isn't paying any attention to him. Izuki then picks up the crossbow from the ground, recognizing the weapon that Sheckley had used. Iberia is shocked that he doesn't even care about his father, while Izuki thinks about the crossbow's usefulness. He notices this weapon is rare but has no name, and Iberia explains that it generates its own bolts. Suddenly, the crossbow vanishes, and the blonde boy says that tools automatically store themselves in the inventory. Izuki thanks him for his help, and says that he needs to go, because now he's going to find this Raji guy. The blonde boy thinks it's crazy for him to pick a fight with Raji, and Izuki asks if he should just give up, but Iberia reveals that, in fact, they both have a common enemy to defeat. He then invites Izuki to form a team for the tournament, a tournament that Izuki happens to be training for as well. Izuki asks what this has to do with Raji, and Iberia explains that the tournament takes place there. We learn that Raji is the manager's son, so it would be a huge loss of face if he lost. Thanks to this, he understands why that guy is monopolizing the dungeons, but he still doesn't understand the reason for the offer of help. Iberia says his instincts tell him he's very strong, but Izuki questions his haste. The blonde boy gets serious and starts to explain why this tournament is so important to him. In a flashback, we see that he always admired his father, a great weaponsmith. His biggest dream was to become an awakened one to fight with his father's equipment, but when he awakened, his father said it was too soon, as only saviors could use them. He explains that after much pleading, his father set a condition that he must pass the tournament. With a determined look, he shouts that this is why he needs to win the preliminaries. Izuki finds it strange that with such a famous father, he wouldn't need to team up with a level 0. But Iberia says his father forbade him from using his name to get strong allies. He complains that the strong ones have already been bought by Raji, and the others have already formed teams. But then he heard about someone who defeated one of the kings and broke the record for the 6th floor. Izuki agrees to cooperate but warns that he will take Aja to the hospital first. Encouraged, Iberia immediately starts suggesting various team names, annoying Izuki. At that moment, he remembers his friends wondering if they're participating in the tournament too. The scene changes, and we see Ryuto suddenly sneeze in the middle of an intense training session. Seiya asks if he has a cold, but he thinks Izuki is talking about him. She worries, wondering how long it's been and how Izuki must be doing. Ryuto notices and teases her, asking why she didn't go find him sooner. She attacks him with a water whip, but he dodges it at the last second. He complains it was a sneak attack, but she says it's his fault for letting his guard down. Their teacher arrives to announce that the preliminaries will start the day after tomorrow. And there's no time for fooling around. Both of them are excited to fight, and the system displays each of their stats. Meanwhile, elsewhere, someone picks up a briefcase full of experience stones. Raji Kinoshita is worried, finding it strange that his minions haven't arrived at the location yet. In a fit of rage, he crushes a stone to increase his power, blaming his useless underlings. Then he tells them to forget about that guy, with the tournament being a priority so he won't be punished. His servant informs him that they have persuaded 887 participants to cooperate, pleased with the results. Reggie says the servant is the only one he can truly trust, and with that he uses the final tool stone, finally leveling up once more now at level 12. He feels ready, stating that's more than enough to crush the commoners. Isuki Tenma stands amidst the residual energy of the battle, a serious expression on his face, deep in thought. He apologizes to his master for letting a Joha get involved. Just then, Izumi Hento approaches and asks what to do with the fallen enemy, but Isuki looks at him resolutely. He says it's best to leave this matter to him. Heito agrees with the decision and asks him to explain in detail later. Iberia observes the scene, thinking that Heito is a much more mysterious person than he had imagined. The scene shifts to the hospital, where Isuki explains that he will participate in the tournament with Iberia. Ajerha on her sickbed says that she has recovered thanks to an artifact that Iberia used. Heito then looks at Iberia, asking if he is the son of Eden the craftsman. The blonde boy is surprised that Heito not only knows about the artifact but also knows his father. Trying to appear confident, he gives a thumbs up and yells that he is Eden's father. Everyone falls silent, and Heito calmly says that he's got it all wrong. Embarrassed, Iberia corrects himself, whispering that Aiden is his father. Heito then thanks them for saving his daughter and promises to take them to see Aiden. He lets the two go to prepare for the tournament. He lets them know that he and Aja will be watching. Excited, Iberia promises Heito that they will definitely pass the preliminary round. When only the two of them are left, Aha remarks that her father likes Tenma, just like he liked her and Kazunari. Hento explains that Isuki has a self-destructive urge due to a childhood trauma, but that urge disappears when he has people by his side that he wants to protect. That is why Hento reveals he placed Aja near him, asking her to be his friend. She then understands that she needs to be his weak point, the one Isuki would want to protect the most. The conversation shifts, and Hento reveals that the attack on the school was a planned act. He looks out the window, saying that the future of humanity looks utterly bleak. but he has faith that Tenma will surely light up this path. And with that, the boy will become a great beacon of hope for everyone. The scene then takes us to the tournament arena where the preliminary round is taking place. Izumi and Iberia arrive and see a huge crowd. It's only getting more crowded with the news of Heto's presence. Elsewhere, a competitor complains that Izumi Heto's presence has created too many variables. Another group of warriors notices the red ribbons and speculates whether Izumi is there. Suddenly, the event's announcer appears, preparing to explain the rules to everyone. The announcer explains that the arena has an outer and an inner area. With everyone starting in the corners, he announces that the goal is to reach the center, and only the fastest 300 people will advance. Ryuto is surprised by the bracelet's function, and Seiha finds the mass elimination very cruel. As the announcer permits the use of artifacts, Iberia draws Isuki's attention to something. He points to Reggie Kinoshita, who is giving orders to his hired team in the arena. Iberia then suggests they quickly head to the inner area to ambush Kinoshita there. But the next second, the blonde boy's face turns pale. His face is a mask of utter despair. That's because Isuki is already in front of the enemy group, saying he heard their entire plan. Ignoring the commotion, the announcer gives the signal and announces that the first stage has begun. From above, he observes the competitors, thinking that quality is more important than quantity. Beside him, Tozan Akira remarks that in his time, there were many participants above level 15. But we are shown that in his year only, he and Kazunari Sasumi had such high levels. Akira smiles, saying it would be boring without rookies like Kazunari to stir things up. He then asks Izumi if the rumor about a super-strong new disciple is true. Majestically on his seat, Izumi Hento simply confirms that the story is absolutely true. Akira asks if this person is among them. He deduces that they must have incredible talent. Curious, the announcer begins checking the participants' data to try and find out who it is. He analyzes Riko first, but dismisses him for his low-level talent. Next, he checks Seiha, but also concludes that it's probably not her. He then bets it must be the girl, Hana, because her level is quite high. But Izumi Hento corrects him, revealing that it is none of them, although Hana is the strongest. Akira then asks if by any chance there is a level 0 participant in the tournament. Back in the arena, Reggie's group taunts Isuki, asking if the little boy is lost. Unfazed, Isuki activates an ability in his hand facing the provocateurs. Reggie then recognizes the technique. He yells that it belongs to Zackley and demands to know who he is. With a terrifying look, Isuki asks if they weren't the ones looking for him. Reggie is furious, unable to believe that a low-level piece of trash defeated his subordinate. He then orders his minions to finish the boy, and they prepare to attack. But a dark energy erupts from the ground, and Isuki warns that he doesn't have time to waste. As all the enemies lie fallen, the protagonist walks past them without a second glance. From a distance, Akira remarks that the outcome of the fight was obvious, and suggests they should beg for their lives. Iberia is worried because even if he handles one person, Isuki will have to fight 4 others. With that, he decides he has no choice but to use that thing to help. A new enemy approaches, mocking that the first opponent he found is a level 0, but Isuki doesn't even look up, simply telling him to get out of the way. The man is stunned for a moment, not believing what he just heard, and then he bursts out laughing. He finds the kid's attitude ridiculous. Observing from above, Akira says that he likes that kid and will save him if he dies. The red-haired guy threatens to smash the kid's head, but Isuki just replies with a chuckle. Suddenly, a powerful punch lands right in the man's face. Blood splatters everywhere. As the enemy lies fallen and defeated, Isuki coldly repeats that he told him to get out of the way. Akira is shocked, unable to believe that he instantly killed an opponent stronger than himself. The remaining minions are shocked, but one of them tells the others not to panic. He then prepares a fireball, screaming that he'd burn the rookie to a crisp. Iberia was startled by the explosion. It was so fast he didn't even have time to react as the group of enemies sneered, saying that dying in the preliminaries is normal if you're weak. But as the smoke began to clear, one of them pointed, warning that something was very wrong. It turned out a giant wall of black ice had appeared out of nowhere, protecting them both. Iberia, now holding 2 daggers, was very impressed with the defense that had just been created, but Izuki shot him a cold look, simply telling him to get back. Immediately, a system screen appeared explaining that the wall had increased his defense stat. With his defense boosted, he figured he needed to test the skill's passive effect again. The enemy was stunned, wondering how he could use ice powers without being a water element user. Izuki then pointed at him, telling him to attack again because this time he wouldn't hold back. The guy got angry, asking if he was mocking him, and Izuki confirmed that he was. Furious, the enemy prepared his strongest attack, an ultra-hot, extremely powerful flame. The torrent of fire shot forward, but Izuki noticed that although it was stronger, it was still just a B-rank skill. The stream of fire advanced with full force, engulfing the arena in its destructive power. The enemy boasted, saying that the power of this attack was comparable to a level 89. He realized the attack had drained all of his mana, thinking it was a waste to use on a level 0. But suddenly the man looked to the side with a look of absolute horror, unable to understand what was happening. Izuki then confirmed that the passive effect of the ice doesn't work twice on the same target. Now that his test was complete, he faced the other enemies and warned them it was time to end this. The brute was in shock, but the other guy said he'd figured out the kid's weakness. And with that, the big guy prepared to use his skill, a powerful fire blast. He shot out multiple fireballs, but Izuki activated his ice wall to defend. The consecutive attacks exploded, creating a screen of fire and smoke in front of him. The enemy smirked, planning to drain the kid's mana, as it surely had a limit. But as he was getting ready, his hand was suddenly grabbed with extraordinary strength. The big guy was shocked, breaking out in a cold sweat at what had appeared before him. It was Izuki now, in a suit of ice armor, who had closed the distance between them in an instant. The brute then tried to use his strength, yelling that if the kid's specialty was speed, then theirs was power. Inside the armor, Izuki contemptuously asked if the enemy was even trying. Seeing the brute's effort, he said he'd go easy on him and threw him to the ground. The system screen then analyzed the clash, displaying calculations on the defense increase. The remaining enemies tried to flee, but Izuki realized they were lightning users and came up with a plan. He glared at them with a deathly stare, asking if they really thought they could get away. In desperation, both of them used their electric abilities, trying to take the main character down with them, but the system screen revealed that he had absorbed the attacks, increasing his agility. Akira watched everything, very impressed by how easily he defeated stronger opponents, now enveloped in a partial electric aura. Izuki stood among the defeated enemies. He then understood that the absorption effect, like the ice effect, doesn't activate twice. Iberia approached the bodies. With his hands on his hips, he confirmed that everyone had been taken down. With a smile, he said that he thought it would be tough, but he didn't expect Izuki to be so strong. The masked enemy on the ground yelled out, asking who he was, because he couldn't possibly be a level 0. Iberia then stood beside him, and Izuki wondered why he said "we." With a smug smile, Iberia announced that they were the Twin Eyes, the strongest duo. Isakiller go. Dismissing that idea, Izuki dragged Iberia away so they could immediately chase after Kinoshita. Lying on the ground, the defeated enemy thought the duo's name was ridiculous. In the distance, Raji Kinoshita sensed the commotion and deduced that the level 0 must be getting beaten to a pulp. But then he recognized Shaki's weapon, deciding he would have to investigate it later. Suddenly, a flaming contestant flew past him at high speed. Elsewhere, another participant was celebrating having passed, boasting that he was a speed expert. But out of nowhere, a bolt of purple lightning struck the speedster. The man screamed in pain. He fell to the ground, not understanding who could have hit him while he was running at full speed. Then, a foot cloaked in purple energy stomped hard on the man's back. It was Raji. He warned that this is what happens when someone runs ahead of him. He scolded his team, telling them not to waste time on this kind of trash. In the private rooms, a woman commented to Heiento about the administrator's son's arrogance. Although it didn't violate the rules, Raji was using others to recover his own stamina. With his plan in motion, he was sure he would pass the second stage with ease. He finally reached the entrance to the inner area, thinking it was surprisingly easy. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the arena, calling out Kinoshita's name amidst bolts of lightning. Raji turned around instantly, a stunned look on his face, trying to figure out who had called him. His henchmen went on the defensive, and one of them pointed warning that it was the level 0 rookie. In the rain, the silhouettes of Izuki and Iberia drew closer, putting the whole group on high alert. As they got closer, an enemy confirmed that it really was the kid from before. Raji couldn't believe it. Impossible. He defeated all of my men. With a furious smirk, he accused the rookie of being a piece of trash that wouldn't stop following him. But Izuki warned him that he'd be right here, until they settled things. Raji said he was busy, but he'd prepared a few playmates for them. With an enraged expression, he ordered his new henchman to take care of the kid. The group then surrounded the duo, mocking a level 0 for having so much nerve. Iberia became desperate as he counted over 100 enemies, and asked what they were going to do. Izuki then placed a hand on his head, telling the kid to hold on tight. Just then, blue lightning bolts erupted from the ground, surrounding all the henchmen in front. Raji turned back, sensing the energy from the attack that had just been unleashed in the blink of an eye. Izuki jumped up and created a lightning barrier, trapping the leader named Ragi, who didn't know what had happened, while Iberia watched everything with a panicked expression. Later, Izuki said that perhaps he hadn't explained clearly. He decided to rephrase his statement with a serious expression, warning that no one was allowed to leave until they had settled everything. Harino said that they had already been eliminated if they didn't stick together, though. He thought they belonged to the fastest group of all. Elsewhere, a woman asked Akira if he was hungry yet. Then they looked at the person in first place, Kana, who was at level 16. Harino pointed to the sky, warning that someone was flying towards them. The girl looked up at the person who was rapidly approaching. Suddenly, Iberia slammed into the ground right in front of the duo. He turned back injured and desperate, screaming Izuki's and Harino's names. Harino then asked if he really heard the fallen boy call their names. Izuki didn't. His companion confirmed, saying that was also what she had heard. The scene shifts to a memory of Izuki standing with his back to the rain. He confronts someone and says he won't let that person leave until they have settled their grudge. Back in the present, Fujiwara wondered why Izuki was so focused on Reggie. Beside him, a woman with glasses monitored the entire situation, with a worried expression. Fujiwara then asked Akira Hayton to help the boy if he got into trouble. Akira Hayton contemplated Izuki's speed, wondering if he could achieve that himself. In a flashback, Reggie confronted an opponent and told him to prepare. He continued, saying that what was about to start was not a simple battle. Then the man yelled that it would be a complete humiliation for his opponent. He explained that, in other words, it would be a group beatdown on one person. Back in the present, Izuki said that his priority now was to avenge Ajerha. Reggie pointed at the boy and shouted, ordering everyone to kill him. The whole group charged forward at once, running towards Izuki. One of them stepped forward, saying he would take his head with his punch, but Izuki simply blocked the blow with just one hand. Next, he grabbed his opponent's arm and twisted it hard. Izuki threw the man face first straight into the ground, taking him down. The others backed away, and one of them said there was no way they could lose. Izuki said that he didn't mind while a system notification appeared. He then said he would quickly end this farce, and activated his skill. The boy swung his arm, releasing a huge surge of energy around him. He then caused a massive explosion, blowing all of his opponents away. Harino was shocked and asked if that was really Izuki's ability. Akira asked what that explosion was, and the girl said it was just an appetizer. The first place holder, Kana, also turned back to observe what had just happened. Fujiwara was astonished, wondering how he could use a skill that wasn't from his class. The woman said she didn't know Izuki had an area of effect ability. Izuki said that 30% was enough since he didn't want to kill them. Reggie looked across the battlefield, seeing all of his men had fallen. Izuki looked straight at him and warned that now it was just him left to fight. Reggie screamed, asking why he was so obsessed with him. Izuki said he would return all the pain his friend had suffered because of him. Reggie got angry and said that he could reach levels that others could never dream of. He yelled that his foundation was different and swore to kill Izuki. Reggie launched a massive attack, and Izuki's system began to analyze it. At the last second, Izuki dodged and completely avoided Reggie's attack. Reggie fell to the ground, saying it's impossible to beat someone with such speed. Then, he panicked and started shouting someone's name. The name was 40. The bald man rushed forward at high speed, deciding that he would break the rules. Reggie smiled and warned that 40 is level 35, telling Izuki to prepare. Far away, Akira ordered his subordinate, who replied that he understood. Izuki realized someone was approaching with high magic resistance and speed. The analysis of Reggie's ability was still in progress in the boy's system. Just then, 40 arrived to attack, but was stopped by a rock wall. The rock wall rose from the ground, completely blocking the man's attack. Izuki looked to his side to see who had just interfered in their battle. It was Akira Hayton, who was holding 40 back, and told Izuki to continue. Izuki then turned to Reggie and warned that his help wouldn't be coming. Reggie begged him to stop mentioning his family's important positions. The scene ends with Reggie completely defeated on the ground and Izuki standing firm. Izuki told himself that with this, Ajerha had finally been properly avenged. The woman with glasses carefully watched the ongoing situation from a distance. Fujiwara commented that he had won, and wondered why he was looking at them. The system displayed the analysis at 99%, and he paused it. A voice called out to him, causing him to turn towards the sound. He recognized the voice of the person who had called him, and looked back in surprise. Izuki saw the pink-haired girl and called out her name, Seiya. Seiya approached and told them to hurry to a place with a roof. She continued, warning that he could catch a cold if he just stayed there. He replied that it had been a long time, and the system announced his new rank. Iberia and Harino ran to hug him, glad that he was safe and sound. Harino looked at Iberia and asked who he thought he was, crying on Izuki. The blonde boy responded by introducing himself as Izuki's official partner, Tenma. Harino accused him of being a traitor while Seiya watched the scene with amusement. He asked for the team's name, and Iberia replied that they weren't kids. Harino said of course they had a name and told Iberia to say it. Iberia then proudly announced that their team's name was Double E. Harino started laughing, saying the name was pathetic, and Iberia got angry. The scene changes, and Fujiwara announces that the second stage will begin soon. He explains that everyone will fight a monster alone for 1 hour. Iberia is shocked, while Izuki simply confirms that the second stage has finally begun. Elsewhere, Akira Hayton says he's been looking forward to this moment. The main rivals are shown ready to prove their abilities. The camera shows us the inside of the arena where the qualifying contestants have gathered. A contestant then asks if the second stage of the tournament will take place there. Ryuto meets Izuki and asks if his level is really still stuck at 0. No, what he wants to know is how Izuki got so strong without leveling up. The hero says it's a secret, but Seiya appears, telling him he doesn't need to explain his abilities. From above, the hosts observe the group, and the MC asks if everyone is ready. Suddenly, Iberia looks up with a panicked expression, completely shocked. The crowd recognizes the legends there like Fujiwara Akira and also Izumi Hento. The host then steps forward and announces he will explain the rules for the second stage. He explains that monsters will appear and the score will depend on the chosen difficulty and after each victory. They will only have 1 minute before moving on to the next level. A warrior named Gaku boasts that he'll go straight to the nightmare level in the middle of the explanation. Izuki raises his hand and says he has a question. Some opponents mock him, thinking he's afraid of a one-on-one fight, but Fujiwara allows it, telling him to ask whatever he wants. Without any problem, Izuki faces the group and asks if Nightmare Mode is the highest difficulty. Akira smirks while the host is surprised by the bold question. The other rivals start mocking him, saying a level 0 has no chance. But Fujiwara explains that in theory, there's no difficulty limit for the monsters. Ryuto is shocked and says it's useless to think about it since just beating hard mode would be lucky enough. The host then reveals that the points accumulated here will count towards the main tournament. The crowd is surprised by this news, and Iberia decides he'll have to use his secret technique. Izuki recalls Kazanari's 6th technique, seeing this as the perfect chance to surpass him. After the rules are explained, Fujiwara orders everyone into the arena. The trial begins immediately. The second stage starts, and Izuki finds the place isn't much different from the usual stages, but suddenly many glowing red eyes appear in the darkness. In front of him, a pack of Bane hounds appears, and he finally seems excited to fight the monsters. He activates his ice wall, thinking he needs to finish them off as quickly as possible. In the control room, Akira asks Fujiwara if he's watching that kid too. With a sly smile, Akira says this guy is much more interesting than the others. Akira excitedly yells that the monsters have arrived, but Fujiwara doesn't understand why he's so surprised. In the arena, Izuki defeats all the hounds in just 1 second, instantly earning 100 points. Fujiwara is shocked by the time, and Akira boasts, saying he told him the kid was interesting. He thinks it might be because they were only level 1, but the next enemy is already level 8. A giant level 8 fire salamander appears before the main character. Akira thinks it'll be tough for him, but Hento says this salamander is no threat. Hento asks about the others, and Ajoha realizes her father is trying to divert attention from Izuki. Fujiwara looks at his tablet, commenting that most are still stuck on the beginner level. The camera shows Seiya using her water abilities against one of the monsters in the arena. Elsewhere, a contestant appears crushing an enemy with a giant sledgehammer, and we see that. Kanahanyu is the only one keeping up with Izuki's pace. Back in the observation room, the woman with glasses says worriedly that this is bad for Izuki. It turns out he's been completely engulfed by the salamander's flames, disappearing in a sea of fire. Fujiwara wants to call the medical team, but Akira stops him, telling him to wait a little longer. From within the flames, Izuki emerges unharmed, activating his powerful black ice wall to protect himself. With his ice armor, Izuki rushes forward and slashes the salamander with a precise blow. The strike is so powerful it splits the fire monster in 2 instantly. He stands over the monster's corpse, having taken only 5 seconds to win. Fujiwara is shocked by the armor, while Akira wonders why he took that hit. But we see it was all part of a plan to use the wall to increase his defense. With that, his defense stat reaches an incredible 434. He then skips the rest period, ready to test his new defensive ability on the next monster. Back in the room, they comment that this difficulty tests both speed and combat ability. The next creature is a level 11 electric rhino, a very dangerous opponent. Fujiwara explains that its horn can pierce through anyone's undefended body, and those without lightning resistance will be paralyzed and unable to move. He says the way to win is to use speed to attack when the monster gets tired. But suddenly, his jaw drops, unable to believe what the kid is about to do. Izuki calmly approaches the rhino, touching its electric horn. He faces the monster and says its horn is perfect for testing his defense. The rhino becomes enraged at being touched. It snorts and prepares for its electric charge. With that, the monster charges at full speed, ramming straight into the main character with its horn. Izuki is thrown into the air by the force of the impact, engulfed in electricity. In the observation room, the woman with glasses desperately screams his name at the sight. But Akira thinks that although he's unpredictable, the kid always delivers incredible results. Suddenly, an explosion of ice and blue energy erupts in the middle of the arena. Izuki lands on the ground, realizing that level 10 monsters can no longer harm him. With his eyes glowing red, he declares that it's time to settle this. He then activates his Thunder Wave, increasing his agility by 50%. The rhino stands still, its horn broken and smoking after the attack. The monster then turns, only to be engulfed by a sharp whirlwind of blue energy. In a flash, Izuki is sitting on the back of the defeated rhino. In the room, Akira comments that it took him less than 15 seconds to defeat both monsters. Fujiwara becomes pensive, knowing the next creature is a much greater challenge. He then describes the next monster. It has sharp claws that tear everything apart. Fujiwara continued, describing a giant mouth that spits out chains to devour everything and a massive body covered in armor. It looks like an exoskeleton, he explained, stating that this was the strongest monster of the preliminary round, the final target. Then the level 15 Purgatory Giant appeared, the monster of the Nightmare mode. But without wasting a single moment, Izuki activated his piercing orb and fired a purple beam. The attack went straight through the monster, and the system announced that the bullet's speed had increased. In the control room, everyone's jaws dropped, unable to believe what they'd just witnessed. The screen showed a total increase of 900%, making its power absolutely absurd. One of the arena's security cameras focused on the match, recording every detail of the action. He prepared for the next round, and the system showed the match had only taken 3 seconds. Meanwhile, one of the arena's monsters fired a beam of energy from its mouth. The scene changed to Seiya, who was using her water bullets. Thinking about leveling up, Gaku also rushed, skipping his break time to be the first to reach the normal level. On the other hand, Kana Hanyu preferred to be cautious, recovering her mana before continuing her match. Suddenly, an alarm blared, announcing that someone had completed Nightmare mode in 21 seconds. Seiya's jaw dropped. She realized immediately it could only be Izuki. Gaku was also furious, wondering if Hanyu had been faster. Meanwhile, Kana just observed the situation with a serious expression. Back with Izuki, he pointed forward and asked if they could move on to the next one. In the control room, the staff were in shock that he'd killed a level 15 giant instantly. Akira then smirked and ordered them to increase the difficulty. He wanted to see how far the kid could go. In the arena, Izuki was disappointed to see they had only increased the number of enemies. 2 Purgatory Giants then prepared to attack the protagonist with everything they had. But Izuki decided to deal with one of them while the other was still preparing. With that, he activated his orb and defeated one of the giants, upgrading his skill once again. Fujiwara was in shock, unable to understand how he could use the orb so many times. Akira then revealed that although it was powerful, that ability had a fatal weakness. In the arena, the second giant charged toward Izuki, ready to attack with its full might. Izuki immediately realized that this monster's speed surpassed any of the others. In the VIP room, Hento commented that people are often fooled by the giant's size. Back in the match, Izuki prepared to attack with his dark energy orb. He fired the orb, which shot towards the creature, but Hento explained that the giants are actually a speed type, not a power type. The analysis screen showed that the monster couldn't use magic, but its other stats were higher. And to Izuki's surprise, the giant dodged his attack at the very last second. Hento then explained that the kid had only won before because of a surprise attack. Akira added that if he didn't increase his orb's speed, he wouldn't make it through. At that moment, the giant charged forward and struck with enough force to create a deep crater in the ground. The blow created a shockwave that destroyed part of the arena. Izuki managed to escape the attack, but he realized the monster could dodge from a distance. Akira deduced that he must have another ace up his sleeve to keep insisting on that attack. With a confident smile, Izuki acknowledged the monster's speed and decided to close the distance. He activated Thunder Rush, dashing across the arena at incredible speed. The protagonist then jumped over the giant, preparing to attack from behind, but the monster countered with a powerful blow, hitting him right in midair. The force of the blow was so strong it slammed Izuki into the arena wall. In the VIP room, the woman with the glasses gasped, covering her mouth with her hands. Fujiwara grabbed his phone, yelling for them to call the rescue team as fast as possible. But Hento stopped him, telling him to wait and see what would happen. Akira commented that the power of the blow was immense, but it was useless if it didn't hit its target. The dust settled, revealing the giant's hand embedded in the wall, covered in a strange liquid. When it turned around, it saw Izuki calling out to it, standing on the other side of the arena. The monster then looked at the wall and realized the thing it had hit wasn't the boy. It was completely confused, unable to understand how it had been tricked like that. But from a distance, Izuki took advantage of the distraction and fired his orb right at the back of the monster's neck. Shrouded in energy, Izuki prepared for another attack, his eyes filled with determination. The bullet pierced straight through the giant, pinning it to the arena floor. Standing over the monster, he saw that his orb had become even faster. After the victory, just like that, he finished the match in 12 seconds, earning another 10,000 points in total. In the VIP room, Aja's friend remarked that it was rare to see her so worked up. But Aja tried to act cool, saying she was just praying for everyone's safety. Extremely embarrassed, she stammered that she didn't think Tenma was cool or anything. Her father then remarked that she'd become more talkative since they last met. Afterwards, Fujiwara asked Akira how he knew Izuki was dodging the attacks. Akira explained that his normal speed wasn't much different from the giant's, but when electricity coursed through his body, his speed increased dramatically. So dramatically that the giant's attacks could never hit him. Fujiwara then said that with his current score, first place was already guaranteed. But Izuki thought that in order to surpass Kazunari, the strongest of them all, he couldn't stop now. With a purple aura flaring around him, he shouted that he couldn't rest for even a second. The system then announced Stage 3 with 3 giants appearing before him. With a smile, Izuki fired his purple orb, ready to take down the first one. Akira remarked that he had decided to continue, just as I'd expect from the man I chose. But Fujiwara pointed out that Akira hadn't gone straight to Stage 4 like the kid did. He said that not even Akira could handle it, and wondered what would happen to Tenma. In the arena, the second giant charged forward with all its might, trying to hit the protagonist with a powerful blow. But Izuki dodged with ease, using his agility to confuse the monster with thunder waves. He closed the distance and prepared to strike from behind. Then, he fired his orb and defeated the second giant, his power increasing even more. Falling to the ground, he thought there was only the third one left, but his body felt exhausted. The final giant then lunged forward and managed to bite down. It tried to swallow Izuki whole, but the monster felt something strange, as if the boy's body felt unusual. Suddenly, a bright light began to radiate from inside the giant creature's mouth. With fiery eyes, Izuki activated his Lotus Explosion, ready to destroy everything. An orange blast of light erupted from within the monster. Its power illuminated the entire arena. The explosion defeated the giant, and the system announced that his skills range had increased. The boy collapsed amidst the sea of fire, earning another 15,000 points for his victory. Fujiwara was in shock, unable to understand what had just happened right before his eyes. Then he remembered this was the skill that had defeated so many opponents in the early stages. Izuki got back up, realizing his mana had dropped to 0 after that attack. But he knew that as long as monsters kept appearing, his mana would continue to recover. Then Stage 4 began, and his magic was restored thanks to the 4 new enemies. In the observation room, Akira remarked that only Kazunari had ever passed Stage 4. Izuki prepared to fight, knowing that each successful hit would make his orb faster. And with higher speed, the chance of hitting the target also increased significantly. He thought that if he kept this up, he'd be able to hit them without getting close. But he knew his mana was limited, and he couldn't afford to waste a single attack. A giant then spewed out its chains, rushing at the boy with everything it had. But Izuki dodged the attack, preparing to counter. As the monster struck, Izuki realized the giant had used its chains to pull its body back. With this move, the monster managed to dodge the orb. It all flew right past its head. Then it delivered a powerful blow, slamming the main character to the ground with all its might. The impact was so strong that Izuki thought it was all over for him. With the giant's claws pinning him down, he realized he couldn't move. The creature then squeezed with all its strength, ready to crush him in an instant. The attack seemed to be fatal, and a bloody image of a skeleton appeared. The giant threw his body away. Creating a huge crater in the arena with the force, Izuki fell to the ground bruised and bloodied, unable to move. In the observation room, Fujiwara screamed in desperation, telling Akira to go help him immediately. Akira was stunned, wondering if this was where the boy's journey would end. He remembered his own defeat, seeing the same scene repeat before his eyes. Determined, he turned and said he was going to save the boy, but someone stopped him. It was Heto, who looked at him and calmly said that Tenma hadn't given up the fight yet. Everyone was panicking, but Akira explained that his situation was completely hopeless. But Heto said he could see he still had an ace up his sleeve. Fujiwara asked how he knew that, and Heto replied that it was because of his eyes. His eyes weren't those of someone who had accepted their fate, but of someone who would fight. Izuki then remembered everything he had done, to disable himself and activate his over-mimesis ability. During the battle with Kinoshita, he had activated the analysis of one of his abilities, but he had decided to cancel the analysis at the last second when it reached 99%. He had saved the complete 100% analysis for a dangerous situation just like this. In the observation room, the woman excitedly pointed at a blue lotus flower that had just appeared in the arena. Akira was confused because Ada seemed delighted, and he wondered if she knew something. The system screen explained that his skill could now absorb lightning attacks to become stronger. Izuki's hand, which had been injured before, began to heal completely. Clenching his fist, he recovered. Blue energy enveloped his entire body. With his evolved skill, he received 20 points for all stats, and his wounds were healed. He stood up and declared that the warm-up was over, and now he would fight with everything he had. His stats then increased, with all attributes gaining an additional 20 points. Fujiwara was stunned as he recovered, faster than even a professional healer. Izuki then fired his orbs, defeating all the remaining giants at once. With Stage 4 complete, he declared he wouldn't lose no matter how many more appeared. He continued firing his orbs now at a completely ridiculous speed. The projectile pierced through the monster's chest with ease, before it could even react. The orb then ricocheted, striking the other giant in the back. The last monster was hit head-on, and Izuki had successfully completed another stage. In the observation room, everyone was speechless, their mouths agape at what they had just witnessed. In the arena, Izuki sat on the corpses, wondering who the real monster was here. Exhausted, he called for the next stage, but realized no more giants were appearing. Fujiwara grabbed the microphone, saying he couldn't believe what was happening was real. Then, he pressed a red button, preparing to make an important announcement. With a trembling voice, he informed Tenma that the test was over for him. It turned out the boy had defeated all the giants, that they had prepared for the test. In the arena, the announcer's voice echoed, informing him that he had defeated all the prepared giants. Izuki was confused, as he thought the test's difficulty was limitless. He wondered how many points he'd scored since the limit had narrowed the gap with Kazunari. Additionally, the system informed him that he had achieved his goal of increasing the orb's speed. Now his ability was so fast that a screen compared it to a high-speed vehicle. A blue aura then enveloped his body, and he felt a strange energy welling up. But he glanced to the side with a weary expression, as if remembering something. He sighed, realizing he'd completely forgotten one small detail. Because he couldn't level up all the experience from the arena, it transformed into a large karma stone in the private room. Hento explains that because he couldn't absorb the experience, it materialized. Akira realizes that if he fights as part of a pair, his teammate can get all the experience. Izuki picks up the stone, and Fujiwara thinks that he's lucky to be human. The test is over. He says they've done what they needed to do and it's time to go. He then heads to the arena's exit, and the large doors begin to open. Seeing him leave the challenge area, Fujiwara tells the others that he has succeeded. The system then announces the results, with Izuki in first place with a high score. Fujiwara approaches him, saying he has great potential, and offers him a new master. But Izuki refuses, explaining that he already has a master. This annoys the host. Akira then steps in, saying that if he keeps insisting, things will end badly for him. He mentions that he has already dealt with Kinoshita's henchmen, because they were just a bunch of thugs, and with a smile he reveals that the kid is the legendary student of Izumi. Fujiwara is shocked by this revelation, and Izuki simply thanks him for his help. Akira confirms the information, stating clearly that he is the student of the great Heto. Heto approaches, and Izuki calls him his master. The woman with glasses then congratulates the boy, saying she watched his entire performance. Izuki says he's fine, just a little tired, but a little rest is all he needs to recover. Fujiwara and Akira comment that it makes sense he's so strong since he's Izumi's student. The host explains that the test now has reached stage 6 thanks to Kazunari. Akira then tells him to relax since the second stage has only just begun for the others. We see Ryuto, who can barely lift an arm. She's finishing on hard mode. We see C, who is trying to suffocate the monster with a giant water bubble. With that, she also completes her part of the challenge, but it took 19 minutes. Izuki comments that both of them stopped on hard mode, and Fujiwara explains that they did well. The host says that the contestants can only leave the arena if they are seriously injured. Suddenly, Akira announces that another contestant has reached nightmare mode. The screen shows us Gaku-e, who could probably defeat at least one giant, and for a Shikigami user it took a lot of courage to get this far. She then shouts and her creature transforms into its complete beast form, now a giant werewolf. The Shikigami charges at the enemy with all its might. The giant tries to fight back, but the creature easily blocks its blow. Hento explains that Shikigami can transform and that you have to be careful with them. Izuki then thinks about the dog he got from Shaklee. He decides he'll upgrade it. He turns about to leave, saying that since his friends have given up, there's no reason to stay. But he suddenly stops, his eyes widening at a shocking sight. It's Iberia encased in strange armor, probably a gift from his father. Iberia boasts that it's the strongest epic armor his father has ever made. We then see the armor's stats screen. It adds 100 points to attack and agility. He explains that the armor has a will of its own and is very difficult to tame, but he has to win within 15 minutes. Otherwise, he'll suffer severe penalties. With the armor, his attack and agility stats increase by 120. He rushes forward, saying he needs to push himself, so as not to hold his teammate back. He then attacks the giant, shouting that they are the twin-eyed duo after all. Izuki glances over, realizing his friend has gone into a full berserker mode. Suddenly a buzzer sounds, announcing that the second stage of the tournament has finally ended. Fujiwara announces that only the top 10 will advance to the main event with the prize for the top 2 on display. Gaku-ao boasts that the special prize is already his. The host then prepares to speak, saying he will now announce the top 10 highest-ranking contestants, and the screen displays the results with Izuki in first place. With over 100,000 points, the other competitors are shocked, because the previous record was 60,000. Gaku stands up furious about placing third and asks who Izuki Tenma is. Kana Hanyu says she would love to fight Izuki Tenma one day. Meanwhile, C is discouraged by the power gap between them. In a private room, Aja celebrates, cheering that the results are out and Izuki is in the lead. She senses that her father is very happy, because the new sun of humanity is shining brightly. Lying on the ground, Iberia smiles, saying he knew Izuki would take first place. He stands up proud for having given a performance worthy of their duo. Izuki then praises his friend, saying he was amazing, which leaves him completely shocked. Iberia gets goofy from the compliment, making the face of a completely happy fool. And with that, the preliminary round of the 21st National Tournament has finally come to an end. Izuki carries Iberia on his back as his friend used up all his energy during the fight. The scene shifts to the southern continent, where an old man with a white beard is meditating peacefully. One of the guards complains, but another scolds him, explaining that the old man is the commander-in-chief. His name is Banga, and he is known as a prophet, with the ability to foresee the future. The skeptical guard then asks why the barriers are always raised before there's any warning, but it's explained to him that he can only foresee a small part, but he is still very powerful. Suddenly, Banga's eyes fly open, panicking at the vision he just had. He leaps to his feet, shouting that his prophecies are always 100% accurate. At that moment, he nearly faints, but he urgently warns that the northern continent is in grave danger. He explains that a massive monster attack is imminent, including some over level 100. Back at Hento's house, a gentle breeze blows through the garden trees. Izuki looks at his status screen, seeing he has finally surpassed 1,500 points. His agility and defense stats have increased significantly thanks to his passive skills. We learn that for every level an awakened person receives 50 status points to allocate later. He calculates that his total points are equivalent to a level 30 awakened person. His passive skills can infinitely increase his agility and defense. That's great, but you're worried about your attack power, because there's no way to increase that stat. Suddenly, a voice shouts that the food is finally ready. It's Ryuto who arrives, looking very excited, saying he made Izuki's favorite dishes. Izuki walks towards them, thinking that over mimesis might give him an attack skill. The scene shifts to the dining table where everyone has gathered for a feast prepared by Ryuto. Izuki then asks about Iberia, who still hasn't shown up to join them. Ajoha explains that she healed his wounds, but he's sleeping from exhaustion. Ryuto is impressed that a level 7 like him could clear nightmare mode, but Seiya suddenly chokes up and points behind him with a look of pure panic. Ryuto doesn't understand at all as a terrifying shadow appears right behind him in the room. The figure then whispers that it wants food, looking like a completely starved zombie. It's just Iberia who shoves Ryuto from his chair and rushes toward the dining table. The chef scolds him for scaring people while the blonde-haired boy devours everything in sight. Bowing his head, Iberia holds out his empty bowl, demanding more food. Ryuto, feeling embarrassed, asks why his friend is pouting at him, and no one else but Iberia looks up and smiles, saying, "The food is so good." Ryuto boasts that his cooking skills must have helped his friend get back to normal. Iberia says he's more talented as a chef, and Ryuto isn't sure if that was a compliment. Hento then cuts through the chaos, saying he has an important question to ask. He looks at everyone at the table, wanting to know what the scariest thing is for them. Ryuto thinks for a moment and explains that his dream is to travel the world and eat delicious food, so his biggest fear is getting old. Going out and not being able to enjoy life to the fullest anymore. He gets goosebumps, saying that just thinking about it gives him the shivers. Hento then turns to Seiya, who with tears in her eyes begins to tell them that she was born into a family of doctors. Izuki remembers the warmth he felt from that negative world, and then he met his master Aja and clumsy Iberia too. It was as if he had found new companions, as if his family had grown larger. He smiles, saying it's been a long time since he's felt this safe and he wants it to last forever. He answers loudly that more than anything he's afraid of being alone. Aja notices his aura is calm and peaceful, completely different from before. But Iberia rushes toward him, shouting that he'll never abandon him, which makes Izuki embarrassed. Hento explains that he asked this because regret is something a savior cannot have. He warns that a death without regret is the goal of every savior in the world. After he's finished teaching, he tells everyone to finish eating and get some rest soon. The group says their goodbyes, promising to see each other again at the national tournament. Izuki asks Iberia when he got so close to Ryuto, and he gets embarrassed as they walk. Izuki remembers he had something to ask Seiya, but decides to save it for later. He looks to the side and wonders about Ayoha, who seems to have suddenly disappeared. He sees her running desperately and wonders why she's in such a hurry. Hento asks what happened, and she explains that it's a secret report from the southern continent. She says the information is top secret and can only be told to high-ranking saviors, but Hento tells her to go ahead, saying he trusts them both, and it's not a problem. She then reveals Banga's prophecy about a large-scale beast attack in 3 days. Izuki asks if the prophecy is reliable, and Hento confirms that he is the best. Ajoha tries to convince her father to flee, but he says he is the target. With this, Hento understands that if he stays, he will be an excellent decoy. Izuki and Ajoha offer to fight, but Hito immediately refuses their help. He says he's already made up his mind, and there's something important he needs Tenma to do. With that, he asks them both to protect Aiden, Iberia's father, and a great artisan. Izuki understands that his master is trying to keep him away from the battlefield. Then Aja approaches, saying she also has 3 requests for her father. She orders the evacuation of the people, notification of the awakened ones, and protection for the most populated areas at night. Aja says she's already made the arrangements, and Hento apologizes for the trouble. She throws him a suspicious look as if not believing her father's words. Hento asks if she's worried, but Aja says she'll just have to defeat them all. Then she remarks that as expected, her father always sees through everything. He explains that he sent Tenma away, because if he fights, his abilities will be exposed. Hento also reveals that from his battles he realized the boy lacks attack power, and that's why he sent him to Eden, who has an artifact that increases power if he succeeds. A perfect awakened one with all attributes will finally be born. On the first day of the prophecy, stone tablets fall across the northern continent. Izuki and Iberia are running, and the blonde boy says they still have 100 kilometers to go. The protagonist thinks they need to hurry because the attack could start soon. Suddenly, Iberia stops and points to the sky. Shouting for his friend to look, Izuki turns around and sees what his friend is pointing at, completely shocked by the sight. A flaming stone tablet is falling straight into the middle of their city area. The giant pillar slams into the ground with its full force, causing an explosion that lights up the night sky. Izuki thinks the evacuation must still be in progress, and a beast now would be a disaster in the city. A group of awakened ones warns that a beast is coming, and tells everyone to run. Iberia notices a barrier has been formed and thinks about the dilemma between helping and their mission. Izuki thinks Iberia is tired and worried, and that suggesting they save the civilians would only annoy him. But the blonde-haired boy surprises him saying the beast inside is strong and they need to help. So they change their plans, deciding to deal with the beast in the city first. The ground then begins to shake, and a stone creature emerges from the earth. It's a flame golem, a level 21 beast, much stronger than the awakened ones. One of the warriors says that even as a group it would be very difficult to defeat the monster. Being the strongest, the team leader created a rock shield and yelled for no one to break formation. He told the others to look for an opening while he held off the golem's attack. But the creature threw a fireball that hit the team leader, directly sending him flying. The man crashed into a wall, saying there was no way he could have survived that. The others panicked because if even their strongest couldn't take it, they didn't stand a chance. One of them shouted, "Run!" But the golem appeared and attacked him before he could escape. He then yelled to the others, telling them to watch out for the attack. But when he turned around, he saw the golem right in front of him, its red eyes glowing. In desperation, he fired his water cannon, begging the monster not to kill him. He thought it was all over. But then he remembered that as a water element user, he had an advantage. The others wondered if he would succeed, but they still decided to finish the golem. However, the man stood up, saying he had single-handedly defeated the beast and should be the one to finish it. But the golem regenerated and grabbed him. This left all the Awoken shocked at the sight. The creature then unleashed a stream of fire, and everyone thought they were done for. Suddenly, a wall of black ice appeared and blocked the attack, protecting everyone. Izuki and Iberia arrived, and the blonde boy told them to leave the monster to the twin-eyed duo. Izuki told Iberia to evacuate the civilians while he used his ice to block the flames. The Awoken wondered if they were their saviors, and Iberia said that one day he would be stronger. The blonde boy scolded them, and the man wondered how an awakened could defeat a beast. Then he noticed the ice armor, wondering if it was an artifact. Izuki recalled Hector's words that his orb was very powerful but slow to recharge. He should avoid using the orb in regular battles and save it as a trump card. With the crowd nearby, he knew he absolutely couldn't use the orb, so he decided he would have to suppress the monster with just brute force. The main character dodged the golem's attack and countered with a punch to its chest. He used Lightning Wave to jump over the monster's head. The creature tried to grab him in midair, but he dodged and landed another blow on its chin. As the golem was stunned, he prepared his next attack, enveloped in electrical energy as a blue and black aura surrounded him, and he struck the monster's chest with all his might. The punch sent the creature flying. It created a large crater in the middle of the road. The civilians were shocked, and one of them said the beast must have been injured beforehand. One of the Awoken turned pale. He couldn't believe the scene he had just witnessed. He didn't understand how a level 21 golem couldn't fight back. After the dust settled, the Awoken wondered where the young man had gone. Another person said it was thanks to him, but the team leader admitted he couldn't even keep up with his speed. Izuki and Iberia ran off, and the hero thought that this wasn't a good sign for the future. He looked at his stats and realized that one way or another he needed to increase his attack power. Iberia praised his speed, but Izuki said it was useless without power. The stunned blonde boy admitted that he had never thought of that before. Izuki then told him that if he wanted more power, there was a good way to get it. Excited Iberia said his father's warehouse was full of tools that increase attack power. He started drooling, imagining what Izuki would look like with one of those items. Izuki stared at him, wondering about his creepy laugh. The blonde boy then told him, "Let's go." But Izuki noticed he was trying to hold back, so he picked his friend up, warning that if he got tired, he wouldn't be able to fight. Iberia shouted that he wasn't ready. As Izuki ran through the city carrying him, he complained about the speed, and Izuki said they were already late for the mission. After a while, they finally reached their destination, a house in the middle of the forest. Iberia celebrated their arrival, thinking his arms were about to fall off. He explained that his father preferred the forest because the city was too noisy. Izuki activated his detection skill, and Iberia warned him that the house was full of traps. With a smile, he said it was no problem as long as his friend was nearby. Iberia boasted, but Izuki thought he could dodge the traps himself using his detection skill. But halfway there, the blonde kid accidentally stepped on one of the traps. He looked embarrassed, and Izuki wondered if this was really his house. The ground then began to shake, and the mana fluctuations became much more intense. Suddenly, a giant iron golem rose from the ground, preparing to attack. Izuki was shocked, not expecting to find humanoid tools here. The golem then attacked Iberia, who tried to defend himself from the creature's powerful blow, but the attack was too strong, sending him flying towards where Izuki was standing. The main character dove to the ground to dodge, and the golem's fist created a crater. Isuki was angry that even a tool had higher attack power than him, and it was also indestructible. He asked Iberia if there was a way to stop the golem, and the blond boy answered, shouting for his friend to aim for the stone right on the creature's chest. With a smile, Isuki activated his lightning wave. Saying things just got a lot easier. He dodged the golem's attack and created 2 electric clones to distract it while the monster was confused. He rushed forward, preparing to strike its weak point. Taking advantage of the distraction, he got close and prepared to rip out the golem's core with a single pull of his hand. He pulled the blue stone from the creature's chest. Without its power source, the golem stopped moving, instantly disabled. Isuki held the stone, wondering if it would be enough for what he wanted. But suddenly Iberia shouted at someone. That Jujutsu-san immediately stopped. A mysterious man appeared and attacked Izuki. He used a dagger to block the blow, surprising the man, and Izuki wondered when he had gotten so close. He introduced himself as Bokuto Jujutsu and said he thought they were robbers. Izuki was confused because he couldn't sense the man's mana before being attacked. While distracted, Junsuke stole Izuki's dagger, and Izuki then realized his sword was gone. Iberia started to introduce Izuki, but his friend cut him off, asking where his father was. Junsuke pointed behind them, warning them to be careful because his master was there. Iberia's father appeared, and the guard warned that he didn't look happy. Iberia ran to him, shouting that he had passed the tournament's preliminary round. He bragged that he had placed 4th and wanted to choose a tool, but his father slapped him right across the face, sending him flying from the force of the blow. Iberia was completely confused. He asked why his father would hit him like that. Furious, the old man yelled at him to return the dragon armor he had stolen. He scolded his son, saying that something irreversible could happen if he used it too much. Livid, Iberia threw the bag on the ground and said he would never use anything of his father's again. Izuki then introduced himself as Tenma Izuki, saying it was an honor to meet him. He explained that his master had sent him for protection because of Banga's prophecy. Aiden wondered why Hento would choose such an ordinary-looking boy as his disciple. But suddenly his eyes widened as he noticed something very strange about the boy. With a powerful aura, he asked if his level was fixed, and the screen confirmed it. Aiden asked if he was using a karmic artifact to fake his stats. With that answer, he understood why. Hento had requested that specific item from him. He said the boy's master always calculated everything, and that there must have been a reward, but Izuki was surprised because Hento had never mentioned an artifact in exchange. Aiden said he didn't mind giving him the item as he was just curious about this choice. Izuki didn't understand and asked why he called the artifact a failure. The old man explained that the item was a masterpiece that doubled attack power on a critical hit, but suddenly a crack formed on the crystal, completely changing its effect. Now the item multiplies attack power by 10 times, but it resets the critical rate every time you level up. That's why the artifact is useless for a normal awakened person, but perfect for the boy. Izuki then took the crystal and it merged with his hand in a brilliant golden light. Aiden said that since he doesn't level up, this artifact is ideal for him. Over time, his critical rate will reach 100%, and his attacks will become even stronger. A golden aura surrounded him, and we see the name of his new skill. But he realized the rate only increases when facing stronger enemies, which was a problem. The system screen displayed details about the new crystal's effect. Aiden said it seemed the item was quite compatible with him, and Izuki agreed. Suddenly, a flaming arrow shot into the forest, and Aiden said that was impossible. A stone pillar then collapsed, and the impact created a shockwave. The guards outside were thrown back by the force of the blast. Iberia stepped out of the house. He didn't understand what was happening outside. Startled, he noticed a giant green barrier had appeared around them. He didn't understand the reason for the barrier, and he panicked at the situation. Aiden wondered if this was a coincidence, since only the commanders knew his location. Junsuke shouted a warning that calamity beasts were heading towards them with glowing eyes. Izuki sensed something approaching. At incredible speed, he could see 6 creatures running through the forest canopy, but he immediately corrected himself, realizing there were actually 8 of them coming to attack. A one-horned demon appeared, and Izuki shouted that they had finally arrived. The creature tried to attack from behind, but our protagonist grabbed it by the neck. Izuki activated his ice wall, impaling the demon on a spike. But the other demons didn't stop surrounding the protagonist with killing intent. He thought he could use his explosion Lotus to finish them right now. He knew that Junsuke, who was also fighting, could withstand the attack. The problem was that Aiden and Iberia were hiding in the warehouse right behind him. If he used the explosion recklessly, both of them could be caught in the flames. Surrounded by fallen enemies, he realized he was much better suited to fighting alone. Suddenly, he felt another wave of mana much more intense than the previous ones. At that moment, a level 24 two-horned guardian demon appeared before him. The scene shifts to the demon world where the first wave of the attack was sent. Then they discussed which of the 8 demon kings would lead the main attack force. The king said that thanks to his eye, he had become aware of the existence of someone important. One of the 8 kings, Enmaraku, wondered who would lead the attack, but the king decided to entrust it to a general so as not to risk destroying his eye. Afterward, he gave command of the main force to the demon Sokuma. The king remarked that he hadn't eaten human flesh in a long time and must be starving. Suddenly, Iberia's scream echoed through the forest, and Izuki wondered what had happened. The two-horned demon attacked him, but he defended himself, protecting his body. With the enemy in front of him, he decided he had no other choice but to use that thing. Izuki prepared to attack, dodging the demon's powerful blow. He saw an opportunity to increase his critical rate and prepared a purple orb. The protagonist then fired it. It flew at high speed towards the monster, the attack hit its mark, and a system screen announced that his critical rate had increased. He told Jusuk to handle the beast that had gotten into the house. He would handle the rest. Covered in lightning, Izuki ran towards the wooden house to help his friend, but inside, Iberia had fallen and was injured. His dragon armor had disappeared. He knew the situation was bad, and if this continued, he would be a goner. The demon grabbed him by the neck, and the desperate blonde-haired boy screamed for Izuki, but Eden suddenly appeared and smashed the monster's head with a sledgehammer. Iberia explained that his father wasn't a warrior, but he wasn't afraid of the monsters. The creature then turned back and stared at the old man with eyes full of anger. With a single push, Eden threw the beast out of the house and said the rest was up to them. Izuki then arrived, his body wreathed in lightning, ready to fight. He activated his ice wall and defended against the attack, the creature's claw attack. Next, he pierced through the monster's chest, sending blood splattering everywhere. He apologized for being late, and Iberia asked about the situation outside. Izuki explained that he suspected Jujutsu had taken care of all the other beasts outside. Iberia and Eden were astonished to see the man standing amidst a horde of demons. But Jujutsu warned them not to let their guard down, as more demonic beasts would come. He said he would destroy the barrier, but if any demonic beast got through, it would be their responsibility. But Izuki interrupted, telling him to stay and protect the other 2. Eden noticed his eyes, realizing there was no fear, only a thirst for battle. Therefore, he decided to trust the boy and entrusted the task of destroying the barrier to him. Jusuk warned that the demonic beasts from the green barrier were at least level 250. With a glint in his eye, Izuki prepared to leave, lightning crackling around him. He smiled and said that finally, he could fight with all his might without holding back. Iberia offered to go with him, but his father stopped him, saying he couldn't. He explained that they live in 2 completely different worlds, and that it was pathetic. The blonde boy didn't understand, saying they were a team, and they compensated for each other's weaknesses, but his father yelled that he wasn't providing support. He was just a burden. He warned that if he kept going on like this, he would get Tenma killed. Aiden explained that Tenma is very special and no one in his generation can compare. He asked if Iberia had ever seen his eyes when he's facing a Calamity-class demonic beast. Meanwhile, Izuki detected 5 enemies and his mana was fully restored. He was surrounded by a horde of demons but was unfazed by their numbers. With a shout, he told them to get out of the way. An electric aura surrounded him, and then he activated his Lotus Burst technique, defeating all 5 enemies at once. With this victory, he knew he wouldn't let any demonic beast get near the others. Iberia looked towards the forest and saw smoke from the recent explosion. He and Jusuk wondered where it came from. Deducing that Izuki had found more demonic beasts, Jusuk thought that an explosion of that scale wasn't something a no class could pull off. Izuki finally reached the green barrier and realized the demonic beasts inside were stronger. He tried to use his mana detection ability, but the barrier completely blocked his skill. Then he remembered that green meant the demonic beasts were level 2650. With a lotus symbol in his hand, he thought about the huge amount of experience he was about to receive. So he decided to summon his Shinigami, the Death Hound. It appeared from the shadows. We see the creature's stats, a B-rank wolf with the ability to track mana. Izuki petted the wolf, promising to give it all the experience points. But he warned it not to touch any of the demonic beasts until it received his command, his expression menacing. He declared that every demonic beast in there was his prey. Aja informed her father that the awakened guards had finally arrived to support the defense. A man introduced himself as Kei Ishirijima, a first-class savior who would protect her. Hento asked about Akira, and Ajoha said he was guarding the perimeter of the area. She explained that he was on his way, but she had lost contact with him. Ahoha worried he might be in trouble as he is one of the pillars. Hento then told her to keep trying as only a special class savior could fight. But Ishirajima said she was overestimating the special class saviors, who are also just human. He believed there wasn't much of a difference and that he could also defeat a strong demonic beast, but Hento interrupted him, saying that confidence is good but not to overdo it. With a powerful aura, he warned that Ishirajima only thought that way, because he had never truly fought. Suddenly, a demonic beast fell from the sky, and he shouted a warning that the attack had begun. Hento looked at the gate, saying that the enemy had finally come to fight. Ishirajima said that if a special class person didn't show up, they couldn't be relied upon. With a determined look, he vowed to prove he was just as capable as a special class. The scene ends by showing us a glowing green orb of energy in the middle of the night. Izuki entered the barrier, noticing the landscape wasn't much different from the outside, but he felt a strange aura emanating from a pillar of light that made him uncomfortable. He activated his detection skill but couldn't sense anything outside the barrier, as if they were separate spaces. His mana recovered and he had an idea of the 5 enemies' locations. He then ordered his Death Hound to stay put, telling it to eat any demonic beast that tried to escape. With a smile, he activated his Thunder Wave, ready to start moving through the area. 2 dog-like demonic beasts ran through the forest, preparing to attack the intruder. But Izuki zipped past them with extraordinary speed, leaving them completely confused. Then he created an ice wall and charged at the demons, trapping them. With an electric sword, he cut down the demonic beasts, defeating both enemies at once. He continued forward and defeated the others. His lightning struck all the demons, but the last one, the strongest, faced him, preparing for the final confrontation. Izuki then activated his piercing orb, aiming straight for the center of the monster's forehead. The orb hit its mark, piercing through the demon's head with ease. With that, his critical hit rate increased by 3%, and the battle ended. Izuki calculated that with a 3% rate, he would land a critical hit about every 100 attacks. He approached the Pillar of Light, noting that this was the first time he'd seen it up close. With a determined look, he thought that if he destroyed the pillar, the barrier would disappear. But suddenly his detection skill warned him that another enemy had been found. With lightning surrounding his body, he prepared to fight as one more creature remained. It shot numerous black spikes from the ground, trying to impale the protagonist. But he narrowly dodged them. Thinking that he would have been dead without his mana sense, he realized he would have been impaled if he hadn't been on guard. Then he saw the tentacles hidden behind the pillar, and he understood everything. The creature then revealed itself, showing it was a very different type of mana beast from the others. The green barrier began to open, revealing the night sky outside, back at the house. Iberia looked at his father, his face full of guilt. Dusuk had warned him to stay inside, because even Tenma might not be able to handle everything. He tried to reassure the blonde boy, but Iberia felt like a burden in this situation. Outside, Dusuk asked if he could have defeated a level 26 mana beast. Dusuk told him not to be discouraged because even he didn't have that kind of courage at his age. Iberia was surprised, and Dusuk explained that the difference between barriers is huge. He said the gray mana beasts have no intelligence and just repeat a cycle of destruction. But in the green barrier, these creatures are highly intelligent, just like normal humans. Suddenly, a mana beast in green armor appeared, a level 34 general. Dusuk remarked that few young people of their generation could defeat this mana beast. He explained that Iberia wasn't a burden because he was immature, but for another reason, it's because Tenma is just too strong. He can even speak their language. The mana beast asked what he was mumbling about, perhaps begging for his life. It called him a coward and said he couldn't stop trembling in fear before it. But Izuki smiled, saying he was just excited because he wanted to ask something. With a cruel expression, the mana beast said it would grant his final wish, if he wanted. And with fiery eyes, Izuki asked if this creature could feel pain. The mana beast said a mere human couldn't make it feel pain and called him insolent. With a leap, the creature warned that it specialized in inflicting agony on others. Its tentacles lashed out like blades, tearing up the ground and creating deep craters in the forest. Izuki dodged the attacks, moving at high speed amidst the destruction. With one blow, he severed a tentacle, creating an opening to counterattack. He wondered if that was a direct hit, but then he noticed the monster's mana extending even further. The tentacles became faster, and he could only narrowly dodge the slashing attacks, but he knew that when it came to speed, he still had the upper hand in this fight. The problem was, without raw power, it was hard for him to damage the enemy. The monster couldn't believe a level 0 being had this kind of speed, and it asked his level. It said that it didn't matter because he was still just a slightly faster insect. The creature warned him that if he got hit by a single blow, it would be an instant checkmate. Izuki rushed forward, severing another tentacle and preparing for the finishing blow. He dodged just in time as a tentacle grazed past his ear, nearly hitting him. Swinging his arm back, he blocked the attack successfully, defending himself from the blade. But the force of the blow sent him flying into a tree. With a tentacle caught in his arm, he braced himself to counter the monster's attack. Izuki then challenged the monster, telling it to use its strongest attack. The creature mocked him, saying his electricity was only good for boosting his speed. But Izuki realized over-mimesis wouldn't activate because the tentacles were part of its body. He continued to attack the monster, wondering how many hits he'd landed. But the creature said it was useless because his mana was almost depleted. With his red eyes, he realized that if this kept up, your speed is dropping. You decide you need to increase your attack frequency to land a critical hit. With an electric aura, you charge in and begin to unleash a barrage of blows. As you strike the monster, you know you have to keep attacking to increase the chance of landing a critical hit. The creature attacks you with a tentacle, but you endure the pain and continue your assault. Model. But the monster impaled him with one of its tentacles, gravely injuring him. The monster called him a fool for charging in so recklessly. Then it mocked him, asking why he wasn't making it feel any pain at all. The creature was surprised he was still alive, noting that his defense was quite high. But Izuki smirked, and the system announced his next attack would be a 100% critical hit. With just one blow, he landed a devastating critical hit on the creature's chest. The monster screamed in agony. It couldn't believe the power it had just felt from the attack. The blow was so strong it sent the monster flying into the trees, defeating it completely. Falling to the ground, it wondered what had just happened and where all that power came from. Izuki wiped the blood from his mouth, realizing the power was even greater than he'd thought. With this victory, he felt a joy and satisfaction he had never experienced before. He noticed his wounds, but realized he didn't feel any pain despite bleeding. With smoke rising from his mouth, he said that he felt amazing right now. He approached the monster and asked if it felt any pain from his blow. He placed his hand on the monster's head. It asked what he was planning to do. With a brutal expression, he said that the monsters he had faced before didn't have any intelligence. You squeeze the creature's head and say that its screams of pain are a wonderful sound. The panicked monster screams that you are not human, but a demon. With one final blow, you crush the monster's head, increasing your critical hit rate. You turn to the creature's corpse, saying that it's finally been dealt with. But as the adrenaline fades, you begin to feel the intense pain from your wounds. Then you look around and see the barrier. It has become transparent. There are no more monsters. With the area cleared, you know all that's left is to destroy the pillar. With a single blow, you easily shatter the monument, thinking that it was more fragile than you expected. Exhausted, you sit down, thinking you need to check one more thing before heading back. You look up at the sky and call for your hellhound. In a weak voice, Shinigami appears before you, and you tell the creature to show itself. The wolf approaches, and Izuki asks if it has gotten bigger than before. He looks closer and realizes it's not just the size that has changed. The system screen shows the wolf has leveled up 3 times and received new stats. He understands that it wasn't his imagination, and its body grew with its level. With a smile, he wonders just how big this creature will get. The scene focuses on the sky as the green barrier completely disappears. Inside the forest, Iberia celebrates, shouting that the barrier is gone, and Izuki actually did it. Yusuke is very impressed. He destroyed the barrier in 10 minutes, an incredible time. But Izuki is exhausted. His body has reached its limit due to blood loss. He orders his hellhound, to follow the mana trail and lead it to Iberia. The wolf howls and begins to run through the forest following its master's command. Suddenly, a monster's howl echoes through the forest, catching everyone's attention. Josh doesn't understand. The barrier has already been destroyed, so there shouldn't be anything else. He tells Iberia to get back, preparing for another intense battle. But Iberia recognizes the howl, saying he's heard that sound somewhere before. The creature approaches with sharp claws and a furious expression. Josh readies his sword, saying the sound is getting closer. A giant wolf appears, and he says that if it's a monster, he'll have to cut it down. Iberia then recognizes the creature, saying that it's the hound Izuki calls Shinigami. He yells, trying to warn Yusuke that the wolf is their friend's Shinigami. The man attacks anyway, and the wolf slams him to the ground with a single blow. Yusuke is shocked to see Izuki on the ground brought by the Shinigami. He doesn't understand because he thought only Shinigami users could own one. Iberia runs to help while Yusuke thinks that Izuki is a complete mystery. He kneels down, not asking what happened since his friend is covered in blood. But Izuki just asks to rest for a moment, then closes his eyes and immediately passes out. Iberia panics, screaming his name and not knowing what to do. Yusuke reassures him, saying he's not dead. And there's no need to cry like that. The blonde-haired boy is relieved, wondering if his friend really isn't dead. Yusuke points out that he's still breathing, although he's heavily injured. He then tells Iberia to use his bandages to treat their friend's wounds. Iberia thinks that maybe he'll never catch up to his friend's strength, but there are things only he can do. He explains that his class is a windmancer specializing in support. A screen displays his gift, which reduces damage and increases recovery speed. With a determined look, he says he'll use his gift as many times as necessary. With a green aura, Iberia prepares to use his skill Healing Wind. He channels the energy into Izuki, hoping he gets well soon for their duo's sake. Izuki is still in a cold sweat, seemingly trapped in a terrible nightmare. The scene changes. A purple barrier expands near the Izumi residence. Just then, one of the stone monuments collapses, destroying part of the house. Aja finds Chirojima on the ground and desperately screams his name at the sight. She tries to heal him with her butterfly, but he can only tell her to run. The monster is too strong, and not even humanity stands a chance against it. The creature reveals itself a level 81 orc warrior. An extremely powerful being has been defeated. Chirojima begs for Izumi and his daughter to escape in time. The orc warrior then confronts Hahoto, recognizing him by his strange and unique clothes. The monster celebrates finding its target, and Hahoto is relieved that he is the target. Suddenly, a brilliant explosion of white energy illuminates the entire area. Aja screams in despair for her father, who was caught in the middle of the blast. With a single tear, Chirojima thinks this is it. It's all finally over. From the bushes, Hino appears, saying he's late to the party with his bright red eyes glowing. Akira arrives, ready to join the battle, apologizing for being late, and says to leave that giant monster to him. The bull monster scoffs, saying he's pretty full of himself for someone who just showed up injured. Chirojima yells a warning to be careful, as the creature is very strong. But Akira blocks the blow with his arm and counters with a punch to the monster's chest. The blow is so powerful it pierces through the creature's body, sending blood flying everywhere. Chirojima is stunned, unable to believe the scene he just witnessed. He wonders if this is the true power of a special-grade savior. He thought they were human, but Akira is a monster with absurd strength. Ajoha celebrates the victory, but Akira warns that the real battle has only just begun. Suddenly, the purple barrier changes color, turning completely red. Inside, a demon wonders about the Lord and Saruma, how they will play with humanity. He introduces himself as the Red Flame Demon King and says he's eager to watch. Behind him, a level 49 white demon appears, preparing to attack. The Red Flame Demon King warns them not to do anything, because their mission is to capture someone. Then, the Icebone Demon King explains that they were sent to the same barrier so as not to stand out. Lord Ensukuma's red barrier will attract the strongest humans, acting as a diversion. At the same time, the other demons decide to head for the destination while Ensukuma fights the humans. One of them explains that Lord Linga's demon eye will guide them to their target. It turns out the demon eye is in the same location as the target, which in this case is Izuki, our protagonist. He then suddenly wakes up in a cold sweat, sensing the presence of the demon eye. Lying in bed, Izuki begins to recall his traumatic childhood. He remembers telling his mother that he found a beast that could feel pain. With an innocent smile, he celebrated crushing the creature's skull with his bare hands. But his mother appeared, telling him to stop that attitude at once. She warned him that there are more important things than getting revenge on the beasts. The woman said he shouldn't use his power for revenge, but to protect. With a grim face, the boy yelled that it was completely impossible for him. He declared that he would never forgive the beast that killed his parents. With his eyes bloodshot with rage, he swore to kill every last one of them. His mother just looked at him with sad eyes. Not knowing what to do, she said that she had to go, and her body began to dissolve into particles of light. Desperate, Izuki shouted, asking where she was going, and that he had so much he wanted to tell her. She reached out her hand and begged him not to be consumed by hatred. He tried to reach for her, but her body dematerialized, and all he could do was scream her name. Their fingers touched for a moment before she completely vanished in the light. Alone in the darkness, Izuki reached out, his face a mask of utter despair with a single tear falling. He sits up. He feels the weight of his loss and loneliness. A mysterious voice then taunts him, saying that crying for the dead is pathetic. The boy turns around, his eyes red with anger. He tries to see who is there. With an angry shout, he glares at the figure, recognizing the evil presence. He yells that it's Linga, the demon of destruction, who is mocking him for crying. With his body transformed, Isuki screams, calling the demon a bastard. With pure hatred, he lunges forward, vowing to kill him as a blazing red aura of fury surrounds him. Linga taunts him, telling him not to be in such a hurry because he will make him suffer. With just one blow, the demon threw him to the ground, showing him what true despair is. Izuki falls amidst broken glass, screaming that he will kill Linga at any cost. But he suddenly wakes up, his red eye glowing, realizing it was a nightmare. He looks around and sees Iberia sleeping beside him, understanding that it was a dream. But he feels a terrible pain in his eye, not understanding why. He looks in the mirror, and his left eye glows red with a sinister aura. Izuki wakes up and notices his wounds have been treated with bandages. He looks to his side and sees Ibira sleeping. Glad that his friend was able to get some rest, he signals his death hound to be quiet to avoid waking him. But the wolf opens its mouth as if to bark. Panicking, the protagonist Izuki pales, cursing his bad luck for the situation he's in. Iberia jolts awake, thinking it's a beast, and that he needs to protect his friend. Izuki thinks that's such a breeze. Wouldn't even tickle a real beast, but the blonde man sees him and celebrates, yelling that he's finally awake. He hugs him tightly, and Izuki asks how long he was unconscious. Ibria says it's been 3 hours, and Izuki asks if the other two are okay. With a smile, the blonde man replies that no beasts have appeared since he passed out. Izuki recalls the dream, thinking that Linga's words are bothering him. On the second day of the prophecy, he gets dressed, knowing he can't let his guard down. Iberia is happy to see him recovered, and Izuki says that reinforcements are coming. He then opens the door, saying he's going to check on the situation with Junsuk first. Iberia asks for the familiar's name, and he says it's just Deathhound. He offers to give it a name, but Izuki tells him that he's not its master. The blonde man is disappointed, and Izuki thinks there's no way he'd let him name it. Junsuk looks at the burned bodies, realizing that Ibria has used his true abilities. Izuki asks if he's a healer type, and Iberia says he also uses defensive skills. He asks Junsuk if any more saviors are coming, but the answer is no. The man then asks why he's asking. With a suspicious look, Isuki explains that they are deep in the forest and that it's strange. He knows Junsuk has a point, but he feels that something is very wrong. A dark aura begins to spread throughout the forest as if something evil is approaching. Then we see a group of saviors running at high speed through the trees. One of them asks how much farther it is, and the other says it's just a few more kilometers. They celebrate about it to get a promotion, but complain about the target's remote location. Suddenly, a pink-haired woman screams for all of them to stop immediately. But it's too late, and one of the saviors steps on a trap on the ground. She warns that she feels something strange, as if a presence is approaching. From the shadows, a voice rings out saying that she's finally noticed him there. Suddenly, a beast attacks, and one of the saviors defeats it with a single sword strike. But then 2 giant creatures appear, asking where they're going in such a hurry. With a wicked smile, the Red Flame Demon King asks if they are all going to the same place, model. Amidst a sea of fire, we see the completely incinerated skeleton of one of the saviors, the Crimson Flame. Demon Lord remarks that humans are quite fragile after all. He then turns to the white demon, asking if it has completed its task. The creature opens its blood-soaked hand, showing that it has dealt with everyone. It says the humans have been crushed, and the Demon Lord calls it ruthless. The woman wonders where they came from, as there are no barriers nearby. With a fireball in his hand, the Demon Lord explains that they traveled a long way to get here. She begins to cry, desperate about the situation and terrified of what's to come. But the Frostbone Demon Lord warns him not to kill the human yet. Ice begins to form on his body, and he doesn't understand what's happening. The other one warns that, if he ignores his command again, the consequences will be severe. Desperate, the Crimson Flame Demon Lord begs him to release the spell before his body freezes over. The ice then shatters, and he is freed from the spell that bound him. He sinks into the sea of fire, saying he thought he was going to freeze to death right there. The woman watches them, wondering if they will finally let her go. The Crimson Flame Demon Lord wonders if the woman has any special powers, but the other one explains that he just wanted to test the new ability granted by Lord Linga. With dark tentacles, he grabs her and begins to envelop her in his energy. She screams in agony as her body is corrupted by the demon's dark aura. When the transformation is complete, she stands motionless, her face obscured by shadows. The fire demon wonders if she's dead. But the other one explains what happened. With red eyes and a crystal on her forehead, the woman awakens her new power. He explains that she has undergone demonization, and now she belongs to them. Kneeling, she asks for the Spectre Demon Lord's orders. He tells her to hide her identity and await the day Lord Linga descends. She also needs to report that she was the sole survivor thanks to the sacrifices of others. Once the mission is assigned, he tells her to go, and the woman immediately obeys. With her face hidden by shadows, she turns away, ready to carry out her new mission. She takes one last look back, and the demons watch her leave at an incredible speed. She runs through the forest, now an ally of the demons. The fire demon questions why they recruited someone so weak into their army. The other one explains that tens of thousands of humans have also been demonized. They will play a crucial role when Lord Linga finally unifies the world. He then tells the others to stop messing around and follow him on their mission. On the second day of the prophecy, the iron golem is standing still like a gatekeeper at the house. Dusuk notes that its stats are equivalent to a level 30 awakened. Iberia asks where Tenma is, and Dusuk explains that he went to the workshop. In the workshop, Aiden asks about the critical hit he landed on the monster. Isuki explains that it was 3%, but after the battle it increased to 4%. The old man says he was lucky to get a critical hit with such a low rate. Isuki then explains that after that hit, he felt like he was omnipotent. Aiden stops what he's doing, turning in surprise at the boy's revelation. He describes a feeling of heightened senses, but being completely calm and in control. With a smile, Isuki confirms that's exactly how he felt. Aiden then says he's surprised the boy was able to enter the flow state. Aiden explains that the flow state happens when you're completely immersed in something. Isuki is confused, and the old man summarizes saying it's when you reach a state of total immersion, giving examples like a painter, an athlete, or even a highly focused student. He explains that in this state, your senses become much sharper than normal, and on top of that, your stats and skills are boosted by 120%. Aiden scolds him, saying that very few people in the world can enter this state. Izuki is surprised as he didn't know the requirements were so strict. The old man explains that even the mighty Washinte couldn't enter that state at will. He says that he himself could only enter the flow state after 2 years. The fact that Izuki achieved it in a month is truly impressive. But he stops talking and asks if the boy is actually listening to the conversation. Izuki warns that 3 individuals with immense mana are approaching the house. He feels the wave of mana is more like a monster's than an Awakens. With a bad feeling, he says he'll go check the situation just in case. He thought he'd cleared the barrier and hopes it's all just his imagination. With a push, Isuki opens the workshop door and goes outside to check on things. Iberia is glad he's out, but Dusuk asks why he looks so tense. He explains that he sensed a wave of mana and thinks there's a monster nearby. But Iberia says there are no barriers, and with the golem they can handle it. Suddenly, a mysterious attack destroys the iron golem in an instant. The smoke clears to reveal the metal creature completely shattered on the ground. Dusuk is stunned that the golem was defeated, before it could even react to the attack. Then 3 demons appear, and the Spectre Demon Lord says that defeating them will be a piece of cake. On the second day of the prophecy, a dark red aura envelops the forest. Izuki realizes these demons are on a whole different level from the previous ones. He has never felt mana as overwhelming as that of the group's leader. The Spectre Demon Lord says he'll capture the target and leave the rest to them. He warns them just to be careful not to damage the magic eye in the process. The other 2 demons agree, saying they won't even break a sweat. Isuki is shocked to realize the monsters are communicating with each other, but the Demon King Lin warns that he won't get past him easily. Suddenly, Isuki appears in front of Iberia with Dusuk right behind him. Dusuk is stunned, wondering how the kid got there so fast. With his eyes bloodshot with rage, Izuki spotted the enemy instantly. He screamed that he would stop him at all costs and wouldn't let him get near Eden. The Ghost Demon King then created a wall of ice to prepare for the attack. Jujutsu was blocked by the wall and wondered what that ice barrier was. He tried to break it, but realized the wall was incredibly dense and solid. Iberia shouted a warning to Yusuk to be careful as the white demon was behind him. With his sword, Yusuk defended against the creature's attack. He grabbed its arm, but the demon threw him aside with a single blow, easily defeating him. Worried, Izuki yelled his name, terrified of what might have happened, but the Fire Demon King warned that he was in no position to worry about others. He then launched a Crimson Fire bullet, an A-rank skill, towards him. Izuki told Iberia to get away and created an ice wall to try and protect himself. But the fireball pierced through the ice and hit him, causing a massive explosion. His overmimesis activated, and the analysis of the A-rank skill began immediately. The screen showed its progress, and he was surprised at how powerful the skill was. With his arm burned, he thought that he'd been too confident in his ice wall. The Demon King mocked him, saying he was a fool to think ice could hold up. But then he looked at the boy and wondered if he could be the demon eye unburned. Izuki stood up with the system showing he was still at level 0. The demon smiled, saying he was just a human and could be incinerated without any problem. With his clothes tattered, Izuki summoned his Thanatos hound to fight. The demon scoffed, asking if he was planning on a 2-on-1 fight. He then unleashed a stream of fire, saying he didn't stand a chance. Izuki ordered the wolf to protect Eden, preparing to fight alone. The demon was surprised that he had dodged the attack. Not understanding his strategy, he noticed the Shikigami. He wondered if the creature was heading for the target. Then he looked at Izuki, wondering if he really thought he could defeat him alone. Izuki realized that if he played the victim, he could buy time for the analysis. The system screen showed the enemy's skill analysis had reached 36%, but he couldn't stand it any longer. And he decided he wouldn't. He wouldn't act like a coward in front of a monster. With a brutal smile, he faced the demon and asked if he had a problem. Inhaling lightning, he yelled that the demon looked pretty pathetic himself. The creature became enraged, calling him a despicable and arrogant human for his audacity. He created a pillar of fire and said he would turn him to ash right now. But Izuki noticed that while he had gotten bigger, his speed hadn't increased. He realized the demon was a long-range attacker, and that he could win. The demon was surprised, not understanding what the kid was planning. With incredible speed, Izuki closed the distance and landed a blow on the enemy. The demon just looked at him with disdain. He was completely unharmed by the blow. With a confident smile, he prepared to counter the boy's attack. He created a shield of fire. It easily blocked Izuki's attack. He wondered what that was and realized it was a fire shield. The demon mocked him, asking if he thought that he didn't know his weakness. He then threw a fireball that hit Izuki head-on, sending him flying. On the ground, the demon thought it was over, that he'd finally taken him down. Izuki was slammed against a tree, his arm completely burned and injured. He cursed himself for being so careless against such an intelligent monster. The demon said that he had completely tricked him and that he couldn't be a level 0. Burned and injured, Izuki stood up, radiating a dark and menacing aura. The demon asked if he still wanted to fight. With a brutal smile on his face, he warned that it would be easier if he just stayed on the ground and accepted defeat. But Izuki glared at him, saying the analysis was taking so long because it was a ranked skill. On the second day of the prophecy at Aiden Hill, we see the Bone Forger's workshop. The Demon King praised the old man, saying he had crafted many powerful artifacts. He called him humanity's most talented craftsman. He acknowledged his value. But Eden was contemptuous, and the demon said he wouldn't kill him as long as he was useful. The old man refused, saying he wasn't the type to take orders from anyone. With a knife in his hand, he prepared to fight. An angry aura surrounded him. Ice began to cover his body as he prepared to use a powerful skill. The demon was surprised, as the ice skill was at least A rank. But he warned that it was useless because the decision to live or die was his to make. Hiding Iberia panicked, unsure whether he should launch a surprise attack. Suddenly, a suit of armor in the corner of the room began to move on its own. The Thanatos hound appeared from nowhere, and Iberia realized it was Izuki's Shikigami. The wolf lunged at the demon with its fangs, bared and its eyes filled with rage. The Yang Demon King faced the creature. Unflinching at the wolf's surprise attack with a single blow, he froze the Thanatos hound, trapping it in an icy prison. The ice that imprisoned the Thanatos hound shattered, freeing the creature to fight. The Yang Demon King wondered if reinforcements had finally arrived to spoil his fun. Iberia was shocked that even Izuki's Shikigami couldn't get near him. He thought there was no way to win, and that he needed to find Izuki for help. But then he remembered his father's words that he would only be a burden. Iberia recalled Izuki's condition, burned and injured in the forest. He knew that if he went to find him now, he might put him in an even more dangerous situation. With a determined expression, he decided he would save his father alone, no matter the cost. Then he remembered the dragon armor and knew he might have a chance. With that, he ran into the room, saying the armor must be under the bed. He yelled out that he would save his father and told him to hold on. The Bone Demon King realized someone was hiding and called them cowards. He then turned to Eden, saying he would deliver him to his fate. Outside, the Fire Demon King decided to leave the cleanup to the other two and get ready himself. The injured Izuki used an ice wall to cover his burned leg and move. Izuki activated his Thunder Wave, charging into the enemy's fiery explosion. The demon mocked him, saying his speed had dropped because of his injuries. He then prepared for another attack. Asking how long he can hold out, Izuki defends with both hands, preparing to counterattack. The demon then unleashes a stream of fire with several fireballs flying towards him. With a determined look, Izuki faces the attack, breaking out in a cold sweat under the pressure. He finds himself surrounded by fireballs with nowhere to run. Even with his speed, he knows he can't dodge this many attacks. He thinks that in his current state, there's no way he can evade them all. As the explosion closes in, he thinks it's all over, that there's nothing more he can do. The system displays analysis has reached 90%, nearly complete. He's hit head-on by the flames, and the analysis process continues to accelerate. As his body burns, he recalls the last time he felt that heat. Analysis reaches 96%, and the explosion continues. Nearing the end, he says, "More fire, just like that time." We see an image of his mother, half of her body dissolving in the flames. The demon concentrates its power, preparing a giant fireball to attack. With a roar, it launches the red projectile. Wanting to end the battle, Hizuki wonders if he'll make it in time. As a blue barrier appears in front of him, the skill analysis finally reaches 100%, and the explosion erupts. The confused demon wonders what that blue energy orb is. With the analysis complete, Izuki receives Black Ice Wall Level 3. His stats increase by 50, and all of his wounds are instantly healed. He now knows he no longer needs to fear the enemy's fireballs. The demon doesn't understand why its attack didn't even scratch his defensive barrier. An ice lotus appears, and the demon recognizes it with a surprised expression. It realizes it should have known this kid was stronger than he looked, its fiery aura flaring. He warns that playtime is over, and that it's time to put an end to this. But he suddenly stops his eyes wide in disbelief at what he's seeing. Izuki emerges from the smoke, his body fully recovered and enveloped in a dark aura. He also reveals that he had planned to leave the demon for later and go save Aiden, but he says the enemy's flames brought back some very bad memories, and with eyes full of hatred, he declares that he will crush this demon first.